Hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the AV Experience. Sorry for the delay. I began hearing the advertisement on another tab playing. I'm like, what is that noise coming from? So it kind of threw me off. Glad you guys are here, man. Happy Mother's Day to your mothers. I don't know if we have any mothers watching us because pretty much last time I checked my analytics, I'm about 99% males.
Unlikely.
Yeah, I think there's like one female and this. I don't even think it's Jessica. She's a subscriber, but she doesn't even watch my videos.
Could be my wife or Megan.
Yeah,
my wife tunes in most of the time.
Yeah, there's only a few. So, but
if it's 99%, it's two wives.
it is
Probably.
It is
Probably ours.
It's definitely not
Feeling bad for us laughing. They're probably on the phone with each other.
Oh boy,
what's wrong with our husbands?
There's a few. Every once in a while, I'll get some questions from females, and that's awesome, man. What's really been cool too is seeing some of the younger generation now coming into the hobby and getting into home theater and trying to figure out like what can I do besides my TV and a sound bar and things like that.
It's like Magic the Gathering. If you do it early enough, you have no money for anything else.
True. Very cool. Is there a counter stream? What does that mean?
No.
I don't know what you mean there, Chris. What do you mean?
But just to tell everybody, Buckeye is not here tonight.
Yeah, I updated the title. So short version is we're inviting guests on here. So we had Dylan from Buckeye Amps. He was going to be here, but he got sick yesterday and asked if he could reschedule. So he will be coming on
28th.
The 28th. Next week, the 21st, we've got Chris and Evan from Seymour. And then the following week, which would be technically 2 weeks from then, 4th. On the 4th of June, we've got two gentlemen. So
Stacy Spears and Don Munsell.
I didn't know Don's name. So Stacy and Don from Spears and Munsell. So they're going to be on here. So going to have some fun with you guys, man. Trying to just provide a variety, and in addition to answering your questions, getting some of the industry leaders on here and just sharing their experience and sharing some of the things that they're working on in their space and in their niche. So super pumped, man. So let me say hi to some folks. Mikey's in the chat. Who else we got here? Bruce, good to see you. Geotech. Big Bass Sama. I like that name, man. That's awesome. Finster, good to see you, man. Jed, crying Brian. Brian, you got to cheer up, man. You've been crying Brian for a little bit now, man. Mad One Racing, good to see you. Who else we got? Chris is in the house. Josh, good to see you. Boyd, lots of folks in the chat, man. So Pedro, good to see you. JD, the expert. Jason, super cool, man. Jeff, good to see you. Well, man, we're going to jump right into it. So if you have questions, definitely drop those in the chat. We'll star those, and we just kind of try to go through those in order that they're asked. If there are any super chats, of course, that's not required, but if they do come in, I always hit those first just as a I guess an expression of gratitude and thankfulness. But definitely, by all means, you do not have to do that. But if you do so, we're definitely grateful. But you can drop those questions in the chat, and we will be answering those. We'll give you just a quick update on MWAVE. So we are 59 days away from MWAVE.
Terrifying.
No, it's not terrifying, man. It's amazing. I'm excited. So MWAVE, if you're not familiar, is the Midwest AV Experience. We started this last year in Kansas City. This year, we're moving it to a new venue, which I'm really, really excited about. It is the Kansas City Convention Center, July 14th through the 16th. You can get all the details, tickets, everything on the website, MidwestAVExperience.com. But we got lots and lots of fun stuff that's happening there. Buckeye is going to be there. Seymour is going to be there. Kaleidoscape is going to be there. Storm Audio, Perlisten, JTR, SVS. Brian, help me out. Who else am I missing? Meridio is going to be there.
JVC.
Arco.
Focal. Valencia.
Yep.
Row 1.
I'll do this real quick.
Epson, SVS.
You can always go up here to brands on the website. There we go. There's a list of them. JVC.
There's still more. Those are only the ones that we've gotten things ironed out with. So there's more.
Yeah, I don't like to promote some. The Focal just came on recently. So that's been in the last probably 2 weeks. So we're excited to have them with us. So we don't like to promote anything unless it's absolute concrete. The last thing I want to do is kind of promote in hopes of versus what's really going down. And so, but already even this year compared to last year is exponentially larger. We're so grateful. The new space that we've got is going to be really, really conducive to what we're doing, which is really providing you with some experiences that you probably can't get. Actually, you can't get at most AV events or trade shows. And so we're really, really excited about that. A lot of home theater systems, like full out home theater systems. Martin Logan, I believe they're bringing is it the new XT or not XT that was replaced, the Motion series?
Yeah, the F200s.
So they're bringing their Motion series there.
There should be a bunch of stuff there. I still have to confirm with them on what they're going to bring.
Sure.
But yes.
Yeah, SVS, they're bringing a whole Dolby surround or Dolby Digital. Man, I cannot think. Got like 4 hours of sleep the other night, so I'm still trying to catch up on that. Dolby Atmos system. JTR is going to have a full Atmos system. Perlisten's going to have a full Atmos system. And then we got some massive subwoofers from Stereo Integrity, GSG. They're bringing 24-inch subwoofers, several of those. So you'll get to experience some really, really deep extension.
Yeah, and then hopefully Perlisten is going to bring 6 subs for their... I'm trying to talk to them into bringing their Munich build, but still up in the air.
What's really cool too is talking with some of these vendors like Seymour. They have partnered with several brands, and so they're building out exactly what they're going to showcase at CEDIA 2023. And so that's really exciting to be able to have that caliber of a system for you guys to experience. And so we'd love to have you come out and join us for that. It's going to be a phenomenal time, but you can get all the details on the website. Man, I almost clicked in broadcast. That would have been rough.
See, I've done it. It's okay. I've done it.
That's the first time I've ever done that. But I'm like, why is your mouse hovering over in broadcast? That would be absolutely horrendous. What I'm trying to do is stop sharing. That was the button that I was trying to find.
He's better. So sick of this. He just wanted to leave the studio.
No, man, I'm serious. So the other night I went to bed about 1 a.m., which isn't too uncommon. Normally I try to get to bed by midnight, but I was working on a project, finished it up at about 1:30, went to bed. And guys, I mean, I just tossed and turned. I guarantee it was 4 a.m. before I at least went to bed. Because I remember getting up at 3 a.m. going, what do I do? Like my brain is just racing. A lot of it I'm just thinking through on things like MWAVE, thinking through a trip I've got coming up. I'm flying out to Wisdom Audio, and like a week, basically like a week, I'll be flying out there. So I've got that going on in my brain. Then we're driving up to Georgia to drop my daughter off, and her boyfriend. They are going on a 5-month hike through the Appalachian Trail. So they're super pumped. They've been planning this for probably at least 6 months, maybe 8 months. And so, thinking about that and trying to get them prepared and just so many things. So my brain was just in hyper mode. And so it was not shutting down at all last night. So if I say something weird tonight, that's where that's coming from. It is absolute sleep depravity, but I did take a short nap today. So we should be good to go.
Your body lets you take naps?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
man.
Yeah. Sometimes, usually it's when my body shuts down. It's like, look, you can't continue this. It's pretty good at letting you know what it can handle and what it's not prepared. So, oh, funny. All right. So where this comment's coming from, Bruce said the show hasn't even started. I'm already been called a liar. So up here, Bruce mentioned that he has watched every video that I have made. He said it ran out of videos, so he's having to branch out to other content creators. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've got 730 videos. I'm like, are you serious, man? That's crazy. I'm like, I'm calling you a bluff, man. So that's awesome. But Bruce, I appreciate you watching, man. That's super, super cool. Let me pull this banner down. All right, we'll go ahead and just jump right into it. We're going to try to keep it relatively short tonight. I know Mother's Day. Ryan's like, man, I need a break. Jonathan is heading out at 1 hour mark. regardless. So we're going to give him absolute permission to head out. All right. So I'm just going to glance through here, see if I missed anything. Happy for you, Jeff. Finished setting up your Dolby Atmos yesterday. That's awesome, man. Got some Emotiva in-ceiling speakers. Congratulations on that.
Somebody was saying Emotiva just released a bunch of new stuff.
I haven't heard it. Let me jump on their website. Emotiva, if we do, we'll pull it up. I mean, we see their Air Motive, which that's normal.
So they got the MC1, their Bass X, the MR1.
That's been around though.
That has?
Yeah. That's a preamp. It's one of their budget-friendly preamps, I think. Oh, wow. That website's not working real well. Yeah,
maybe not.
I don't think it. I haven't heard anything. Usually I get like a press release email from them that says, hey guys, we got a.
Well, you'd be more in the know than me.
Yeah. That is, their website looks kind of jacked, but it might be because I've got my browser shrunk down a little bit.
Probably.
All right. Yeah, I've got quite a few windows open here. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. Let me get over here to the comments. Got a bunch of questions already coming in. Big Bass Sama says, does the Storm Audio ISP MK3 support past 32 channels using an ML32D Dante into the primary digital output port? Man, that's fancy and beyond my knowledge. Ryan.
So the only one that does that is the ISP, but you have to couple, if I remember correctly, the analog and the digital outputs on the ISP. If you just do something like the Evo only supports up to 32 channels. Now, also keep in mind that it is 24 channels of decode and then over that in processing. So the normal ISP and analog is 24 channels of decode and then 32 channels of processing. And I don't think you're going to get more than 24 channels of decode at all. That's still a lot of speakers. And that's a lot of speakers. So, that's the answer to that question.
Okay. So Bodie has mentioned in regards to the Emotiva stuff, they announced some new DACs coming out, an MR1 Lite. So I don't think that's on their website yet. They announced their new HDMI 8K boards. Bodie, let us know, is that like a paid upgrade? Is that something they have to send it in, or can they send you the product? And I know with some of their products, the whole thought was that it's modular. So ideally, they would be able to send you the product. You could swap it out on your own, I think. But that may not be the case. It may be you have to actually ship that to them and have them.
Curtis says they also announced a wireless controller for your tablet.
For what?
I guess
what
like an app.
What would that be? Okay.
App support, maybe?
Oh, to control it. Because like they use like IP to be able to, it's kind of like a, what would you call that? When you have to log in, they don't have like an on-screen menu.
Like a web GUI?
Yeah. So maybe that's interesting. Okay.
They said they're just going to swap out the unit for a fee.
Okay. So there's an upgrade path there. So pretty cool, man. So similar to what we saw with the Mad VR, you can send that in, get to upgrade, and they'll hook you up. Cool, man. Great question. SRW1000 says, wow, industry guests 3 weeks in a row. That's fantastic. Great to see manufacturers joining the show. Appreciate that, man. So again, we're trying to bring some of them on that are, of course, that are going to be exhibiting at MWAVE to kind of give you an idea of what to expect and what they're bringing, to answer your questions regarding their products and just bringing their level of expertise to the show. But then we also want to bring some other industry leaders as well to provide some insight there. And again, just to provide value to you guys. So definitely, man, we're excited. JW Bart 729. What do you guys think about the new products from Emotiva? Ryan, he's got unstarties. I think they're.
I'm not unstarring them. You're just unstarring them as you go. I forgot I started.
But then I read it and I'm like, oh crap.
Sorry.
It's all good, man. Curtis Parsons, I do have a question. I don't mean to ask it too early. Do I have to put the black felt fabric behind a acoustic transparent screen without hurting anything? Okay, so he's asking, he's got an acoustic transparent screen, and he's asking, can you put black fabric behind that? If you put black fabric, I'd probably be careful of putting like felt isn't going to be acoustic transparent, I don't believe, right?
Right.
You could line a wall with it, but if it's a concrete wall.
Yeah, so if you have cutouts behind your screen for your speakers, you could just leave those. Don't put felt in front of your speakers. There's a rule of thumb for acoustic transparent. If you can breathe through it easily, then it's fine to use for fabric. If you won't be able to breathe through felt, you'd suffocate.
Yeah.
So don't use that in front of your speakers.
Like,
well, that got dark quickly. Newsflash.
Guy dies.
Homeowners dying from trying to find acoustically transparent fabric.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
hey, they sell that for what you guys should. They sell actual speaker grill cloth at like Joann's or Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
And so you can buy what the speaker companies use, and you can line your AT screen with that behind there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Bruce is saying that he's asking if you put the black fabric behind the acoustic screen that it comes with. No, don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. So if it's a solid surface, again, kind of like what Jonathan is saying, if you put your mouth up to it and breathe through it and it feels pretty resistant, that's not going to be ideal.
Don't put anything behind, like in between your speakers and the acoustically transparent screen. You're going to mess with the acoustics. Really, the only thing that should be behind the screen in an ideal situation is your speakers and a baffle wall.
I'm assuming what you're trying to do is, the reality is there's some amount of light that gets lost in that. And then some of that light is even reflected back onto the screen. So I'm assuming they're trying to minimize that. And I think what Jonathan was suggesting is put them behind your speakers, like up against your front wall. And so that would make that area dark and black to absorb any light.
A lot of manufacturers actually make, Seymour and Stewart included, a black backer that is designed to go behind it to increase perceived contrast.
Yeah, so that would be okay. You just don't want to put felt. I think felt's just a wrong fabric.
Do what's recommended and provided for by the manufacturer, because it's designed to be used with that particular screen. Don't try and go out on your own. You're going to mess with the acoustics and the characteristics of the screen itself.
Yeah, so like Mikey says, some of the Elite screens come with a black backing that is acoustically transparent. And so that's okay to do. Just make sure you're not using something.
You're still going to mess with the acoustic properties of it doing that, but it's designed for it.
It's probably super minimal. Along that lines, Christian says, is it to soundproof the speakers behind the AT screen to minimize reflections?
There's better materials to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's not for acoustics. It's more for, I would think that's more for light and to help with that contrast. Because again, some of that light that's coming from your projector is going through the fabric. So you're actually losing some light. Not everything's reflected back to your listening position. Good question there. Boom. All right. Hey, appreciate the $5 super chat. It says, hi all, why isn't there more content for 2-channel Dirac live calibration? It's a game changer for stereo, but little out there on proper setup. Thanks. So great question. So he's got a 2-channel setup, not necessarily home theater, but a 2-channel setup. And are there any resources out there on how to dial that in using Dirac Live, calibrating his system for music? And I would think it would be somewhat similar to, I mean, at least the same process that you would go through in a home theater environment. Am I not correct?
Yeah.
Would there necessarily be anything different other than you just got 2 speakers versus 11 or 7? Would there be anything? Well, if you're not running a subwoofer, I mean, you're probably going to run
still
those
not
full
any
range.
different. It's still the same.
Yeah.
Dirac's going to configure all of that for you.
Yeah, if it doesn't see a subwoofer, it's going to automatically want to run those.
I personally think there's not as much content for Dirac because historically Dirac has been on more expensive products, and content creators or anybody that's going to be creating that content hasn't possibly had access to those. This is just a kind of a guesstimation. There's a lot more material, and it hasn't been out as nearly as long as a lot of these other products have been around for.
And I think another kind of along that lines, there just weren't a lot of products that even had Dirac Live. You know, there were really only like 2 or 3 brands that had that implemented. Now we've got a lot of the Denons, a lot of the Marantz that are now implementing that into it. Pioneer's now implementing that. Onkyo. And so you've got all these different manufacturers. And so I think we'll start, like Ryan said, I think we'll start to see more and more of that. I did a walkthrough on Dirac Live. I think it was on the Pioneer unit. the 505 AVR that I've got or had. So, but there's that. But yeah, we don't see probably a whole lot in the.
So be very careful with any room EQ software or implementations. I've been messing around with things coming from Dirac, some things that are in beta that are not in public release. And I noticed during some of my testing that Dirac was cutting off 10 to 15 hertz from my subs. So it was dropping everything at like 20 to 25, and I was losing down to 7. And you could hear it. I mean, it was a huge difference going back and forth. I thought something broke in my theater because of that, but I took a measurement and I lost it all. And I'm assuming a big part of that is because of the DSP and the products, or maybe there's an error in the direct build I have. I don't know, but there was a massive drop off. So my recommendation is for anybody that is doing any type of room EQ, especially because Dirac, you're probably going to have a U mic or some other type of USB microphone. If you're doing that, make sure you verify the measurement using REW or OmniMic or any of the other suites that are out there to see what Dirac did, because really no room EQ software is going to give you a verification measurement, right? It's going to give you what it measured, but it's not really going to give you a measurement for what it changed. So it's really important to go back and take a measurement and look at what the room EQ actually did to make sure that it's correct, at least in my eyes.
Do you guys feel like, I'm not sure, he's saying, why is there not more content for 2-channel Dirac live calibration? I think there's not specific content for Dirac live, is there? I mean, that's just a.
I think he means like a content creator. Like why isn't there more videos out there on how to do this?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's what he means by content. Yeah. So when he's looking for like, how come nobody's doing this in 2-channel? They're doing it for home theater. So I'm just thinking it's pretty much the same.
Right.
You're still going to put the mics in the same location. You're still going to, get your levels in and everything, but, you're just going to do it for 2-channel, and you're going to be running them a full range if you don't have a subwoofer. Good question there. Lucas says, if I set my crossover for my LCRs, left, center, and right, and it surrounds higher, will that make it easier to drive them? I have all MWAVE speakers with a Denon 760H. And so the 760H, I'm going to look that up. So it's probably one of their lower models.
I think it's 7.1, 7.2.
Take a look.
The answer is yes. It uses less power as you raise the crossover, but I've never seen a good guide to give you the exact science of it. Do you guys, have you run across any like formulaic thing? Yeah.
No.
That would say like, hey, if you raise it to 120 hertz, you save this much power. I've never seen that.
Well, I don't know that there is. I mean, different woofers and stuff are going to take different amounts of power, I would imagine.
So this is his AVR. It's 7.2 channels, $600. So it's definitely one of their more budget affordable. So typically on the lower end ones, they're just not going to have a beefy power supply. So here we've got 75 watts at 2 channels driven.
You're probably going to get 40 or 50. If
yeah.
that.
So you're not pushing a lot of those. And he said he had what speakers? MWAVE?
That I don't know. I don't remember.
It should be right below there, brother. Maybe he didn't. Yeah, he says MWAVE speakers. It's right at the bottom on the screen.
Well, he didn't say what kind of MWAVE speakers he has.
No, but all of MWAVE speakers are going to have a pretty similar sensitivity rating. I guess that's where I was going. So let's see. Let us know what speakers you got. But let's just say if he has some of their towers. So their Air Motive T zeros, those are going to be specs. Efficiency 87 dB. So anything
probably
like
lower than that too.
Yeah, anything lower than I'd say 93, they're getting hard to drive, and so you're going to require a lot of power. So I can see why you might want to bump up that crossover, but like the fellas are saying, I don't know if there's a.
He says he has the T0 Plus towers and the B1 Plus surrounds and a C1 Plus center.
Yeah, so that's what I just let it. So they're 89 dB. So here's the thing with sensitivity. So your speakers, to increase that, to go from, let's just say, for instance, 89 decibels is with 1 watt. So to gain 3 more decibels in volume, you got to double that power. So now you're running 2 watts. You double that power, 4 watts, 8, 16, 32.
Well, and you're also going to lose 6 dB for every doubling of distance.
Correct. So the further back you sit, the more that's going to, be lower than that. And so there's definitely some math that goes in there. But I think the biggest thing, you just don't want to run those full range. That's going to take way too much out of your AVR. I don't think it's got the power supply that can handle that.
I don't think it's really going to matter with that low of sensitivity of speaker. It depends on how high you're listening. It's really, really hard to get to really high volumes with any type of traditional dome speaker, in my opinion. I mean, you need to go to like a compression driver or a planar magnetic in order to be able to get there over a substantial distance. I mean, if the speakers are right on top of you, it can be done. But I mean, even Perlisten, when you start putting them at distance, can run into problems. When you start talking about 4 and 5 meters, even with the S7Ts, they get on the brink of running out of steam. So it's subjective, I guess, with that question. Yeah, you can drive them, but it's just going to depend on how high you're trying to drive them and then what the maximum output capabilities of the speaker are.
I'm trying to find, and I still can't. I've never seen anything like it, so it's probably not going to find on the fly here. But if I'm reading this question right, I think it's talking about like, hey, if I set a 40 hertz crossover to my subwoofers versus 120 hertz crossover, am I saving
how much is that
power?
going to change?
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, you are saving amplifier power.
Yeah.
We don't know how much you're saving.
Right. I think it's safe to say if he's running, say, 80 hertz, the majority of that is, it's taken care of by the subwoofer. So I think that's going to alleviate a lot of that. Going from 80 to 100 hertz, is that going to change that much? I don't know. So
it'll change something, but it won't be as. It also depends on the crossover in the speaker. There's too many factors in that, I think, for a formula to exist.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Yeah. Good question. I've never had somebody ask that. Finster, in a 7.3.4 Atmos setup with 1 row of seating, is your preference to have the side surrounds at 90 degrees to the listening row, just behind or just in front? And how high should they be on the wall? So he has 1 row. So one thing that I've always recommended is, Dolby wants you to have them pretty close to ear level. Problem with pretty close to ear level is, especially if you got 2 rows of seating, that's not ideal because it's not going to hit each other's ears. You might be angling at the rear row's feet, especially if you got 3 rows. So sometimes you have to kind of, what do you call that? Stair step it. But you've got 1 row. But the other thing that I'm always concerned about is, let's say you have a row of 3 or a row of 4. If you put them at pretty much ear level, the people on the outside, they're going to be blocking the sound from the other people. So I still always recommend at least up a little bit. And if your speakers can angle down, I think that's even better. And of course, you've got things like dispersion. Whatever speakers you have a different dispersion pattern. So, and that's a vertical dispersion, up and down.
Yep.
So depending on how much dispersion they've got, that can impact it. So I think it's a multifaceted question. I have my surround. So you've got a 7.4 system like I do. In my setup, I chose to put my side surrounds in between my front row and my back row, but I've got 2 rows. You don't. So to me, I would put on yours, I'd be okay with putting them directly to the side. I don't know if there's a great, like, a great reason to either do 90 or a 110 or whatever. I'd have to look up the specs on it. It's like 110.
Side surrounds are 90 to 110,
110.
and rear surrounds are 135 to 150 on the
Yeah,
angles.
so he's mainly talking about his side. So would you guys recommend straight to the side?
I don't, but I mean, this is probably a subjective thing too, because that's why Dolby gives you the leeway.
Yeah.
So his question also is, do you like them a little bit in front of your seating? I have a couple friends that do like them a little bit ahead of your seating. I personally don't, and it's for gaming purposes, because in gaming you hit audible cues. If you do console gaming or PC gaming on your home theater system, you get audible cues. And I've noticed in gaming over the years, especially when I used to do more of it, you kind of expect to turn this far on your screen, like you turn your character this far. You would expect the sound as it goes off screen to kind of mimic that. Yeah. And in rooms I've been in where the surround speaker is in front of the chairs, like if the surround speaker was here, that's my front wide, this is my rear surround. So it's actually behind my seating row. If I move that rear surround, or the side surround, if I move that side surround in front of my row, the angle of adjustment with my character turning versus what my audio was hearing didn't line up.
Right.
It worked better with gaming specifically to have it behind your row. If you don't game, I don't know that it makes a whole lot of difference, because if a car crashes in the right sound side speaker and it's off screen, you don't even know where that's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's just to the right side. So you have some flexibility in there. Some people, I think the people that like it here for their side surround, then like their rear surround a little bit closer in. So my rear surrounds are on this back wall here, like way back there. If you rotate everything forward, our ears are on the side of the head, right? So the theory goes you can hear things better on the side of your head than the exact front or back because of the way our ears are shaped. So that's kind of the argument that I have some of my buddies making.
Yeah.
I stayed more in Dolby spec and then used the 110 side on the angles. That's my personal preference. Sounds like Ryan has a different one. There's no wrong answer.
Mine are ahead, but I have 5 million speakers in my room, so I can't.
You got a bunch of them.
Well, I also like them not really 90 degrees because Youth Man, you said it, people's heads are in the way if they're right there. So to prevent me from having to push it above me, it's slightly ahead, and I don't have that problem.
Yeah, mine are above me, and my previous speakers weren't angled down, but now I've got them angled down, and so they're hitting like the whole row, man. It works for me, but I think if you were to do them 110 and angle them towards, the only negative there is depending on how high your seat backs are. Again, the further back they go, the more the seats could impede that. But usually I'm reclined in my seat, so that wouldn't be an issue there. So I think it's preference. And like Jonathan said, Dolby gives you some leeway there. It's not absolute this degree, gives you a range. And so as long as you're in that range, I think you'll be good to go.
We might also mention, I'll show it real quick, actually.
Yeah.
Dolby does have a PDF on how to set up your theater. So did this show up here for you guys? Can you see that?
Yep. See if you can hit.
Okay.
There you go.
So these are their recommendation positions. You heard us talk about the 90 to 110. They're saying that's the recommended position for a 7.1.4. And then your rear speakers are 135 to 150. And Dolby makes the same sort of diagram for all the different arrangements. You can just type in, your speaker arrangement and then diagram, like Dolby Atmos diagram, and you'll find it.
Yeah, but I think, again, he's just asking our opinion. Do we recommend 90 or 110? Or do we put them in front? So I think part of it, if you can put it on, like, say, bar stools, play around with it. Just see what sounds best to your ears and in your room and in your space. And some rooms just are more conducive to having them straight at the side, or you may have something in the way. So you may find that you have to move them back a little bit. So again, you've got that leeway. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, whether it's directly 90 or 110 or even somewhere in between, like 100 degrees.
I just dropped the link to that document in the chat because it's actually a really helpful document.
Did you drop it in the...
It's in the live chat.
Okay, I just saw it. There we go. Took a second for it to catch up on StreamYard. Cool, man. Appreciate it, Finster. So Mikey says, question, with JTR 212s rated up to 2 kilowatts RMS at Youthman, how well is your Monolith 11X holding up with your new setup? Great question. So what he's referring to is my Monolith 11X it provides 200 watts per channel for my front 3 speakers, left, center, and right. And so the JTR 212s are rated for a lot more wattage than that. They'll handle 2000 watts continuous. And the question is like, I mean, do I feel that that monolith is running out of gas in any capacity? No. And the biggest reason is just due to the sensitivity of the JTRs. They're
compression drivers.
Yeah. What are they, like 100 and something?
They're rated at 101, but I think at Database, when that site was up, they actually said their real world sensitivity is 104, which was, wow.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting reference level with literally a handful of watts.
No, that's at 1 meter.
I get it.
I'm just making sure that people, yeah,
true. But yeah, so for 200 watts, so I have never once, I never once have went, man, I just wish I had a little bit more power. You know?
I have a video out there of those JTR 212s that you own, where I'm running them on a, you know what a T amp is?
Yeah,
this little 20 watt
little
amp.
One. Yeah,
like it's literally about this big, and it's a little Chinese T amp. And I have those 212 HTs playing at reference on a T amp. Like literally by the numbers, that thing puts out less than 20 watts per channel.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they just don't. That's one thing I like about having high sensitive speakers. It doesn't take a ton of wattage, but with that same token, I still like having an amplifier. And part of it is just because it's peace of mind. It's like, I know no matter what content I'm watching, I don't have to worry about my speakers or my AVR running out of gas. I've got dedicated power, individual. And when you look at an AVR, typically the more speakers you add, the less wattage per speaker you get. And so if you're running like 11 speakers in my setup, depending on what AVR you have, it definitely could run out of gas if you're really hammering that thing and cranking it, versus having a dedicated amplifier or multiple amplifiers with 100 watts, 200 watts, 300 watts per channel. You just got plenty of headroom, and I don't have to worry about it going into clipping and distortion and things like that. So, but yeah, I have no qualm. Like I have zero desire to upgrade to a 2000 watt continuous RMS amplifier.
Sean says I have 4 Cap 4000s coming this month, and I don't even have a home. Thanks a lot, guys.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
You could probably take the speakers out and live in those cabinets.
Dude, Sean, that's exciting. 4000. That's wild, brother. You're in for a ride. Let us know how you like those.
What's he doing with them? What does he mean he doesn't have a home? Where are they going? I want to know more. What's going on?
Jonathan, give me some context, man. What's happening here?
Top floor apartment building.
That's right. That's hilarious, man. Bruce says, I want to put suede fabric on all my walls to have the movie theater feel. I've heard too much acoustic treatment is bad. Would this cause that, or would it be such a thin fabric that it wouldn't do anything? I guess is the question.
It's not thick enough to really absorb much. You're only going to absorb the very highest frequencies with something like that. It's not. You don't have to worry about it.
And those would probably be inaudible anyway.
Yeah.
So what I would recommend, Bruce, is behind that, if you can. Well, I was about to say,
I wouldn't treat the whole.
Put his panels on top of the suede fabric, so the suede fabric becomes like.
That's what I was trying to figure out. I guess if he was building a new room, some people, they have like. I just watched one on Audio Advice, and the whole room is like, it looks like hard walls, but it's not.
I understand the appeal to those, but for enthusiasts, those rooms are so hard to change.
Oh, sure.
I'm not a huge fan of them. Aesthetically, they're really cool, but they're
I like
so
seeing
difficult.
stuff, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm weird like that.
I do too.
So I'm the guy. I had to make sure I could lift up my screen because I want to be able to show my speakers. I don't want to entomb them behind a projector screen that nobody can ever see them, man. I want to put some lights back there to do the little IMAX reveal thing, and then I want to be able to lift the screen up. So yes, I'm not one I did see. I went out to Cedia last year, and I went to and I'm trying to think of the name. His name was Steve. Anyway, it'll come to me. But I went to his showroom, and they had, I've never seen anybody do this, their acoustic treatment behind those plain, it looks like just a plain solid wall. They had the ability to illuminate that cavity in there, so you could actually see the acoustic treatment. I'm like, dude, that is cool. And that was on the side walls. Never seen anybody do that. I've always seen it in the front. So that was really, really cool.
This is a follow-up to the JTR question. It says it's 200 watts at 8 ohms,
Mhm.
but the JTRs he thinks
Yeah.
are 4 ohms. What
Yeah.
is that at 4 ohms?
Probably 400 watts, roughly. A
Spec
lot of
says
times it doubles.
375.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's close to that. So, yeah. So you're definitely giving it, like I said, your ears are going to give out before the amplifier does. So have no worries there. It's solid build. Great question, Bruce. Jay says, hey guys, love the show. Appreciate it, man. Measurements aside, and just very much in general, would you think 215s would outperform my 410s that I currently have if I was to upgrade? Thank you. So a lot of missing information there.
Oh yeah.
You know, just because you have more surface area doesn't necessarily you're going to get better performance. What subwoofers are we comparing? As far as just surface area, I'd literally have to go online and do a surface area calculator to see what has more surface area, or, you know, not volume. Yeah, I guess it would be surface area on 215s versus 410s. The 410s is probably going to give you better seat to seat, you know, more consistent frequency response, even frequency response throughout your room than 215s.
The 215s have more surface area than 410s.
And 410s, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the 215s are just going to be a better experience.
Yeah, but it depends on those 15s too, because you could go get some like just cheap Pro Audio 15s and they'd be trash.
True.
So if they're equal, let's say for instance you've got REL 10s and you're moving up to REL 15s. Okay, the 15s are probably going to be a better performer than the 10s. If you're going from whatever, you know, a high-end 10 and then going to a cheaper 15, then that's not a fair comparison there. I can tell you just from personal experience, I went from a 10 to a 15 many years ago, and I have never even gone back to a 12-inch. I had a chance to bring in a 12-inch. I'm like, that's cool, but I want my 15. And then when I went to 18s, it was like, oh, dang. You know, it's a different experience, man. 215s would rock your room, that's for sure.
Depends on how big his room is.
Yeah, true. But if he's satisfied with his 410s,
maybe him and the 4,000 Captivator guys should get together.
Oh, mercy. You're a bad influence, man. Davin says, have you guys had any experience with placing space coupling or skyline diffusers above the listening position in a home theater? So I'm assuming, I don't know what a skyline diffuser is. Is that a brand? And space coupling, like what is that? So I have what I call clouds, which are probably about 4 inches thick. They're just absorption, because I've got just of course a solid surface up there. And so I wanted to tame some of those reflections, but even adding that, it wasn't a big difference in my room.
The skyline diffusers are those things that look like a cityscape where they're different heights of wood blocks,
like the little blocks.
Foam blocks. Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. So that would diffuse the sound that is being reflected off your ceiling.
The technical answer would be you would need to measure it and figure out where and how much diffusion you need.
Yeah, I don't have any diffusers up on my ceiling. Jonathan, you don't have any. My
whole ceiling is like an absorption because I have that Certainty Theater Black F tile up there, which is a 0.7 NRC, which is fairly high. And then above that, I have 9 inches of pink fluffy in the joist. So it's not diffusion, it's absorption.
Okay. Gotcha.
And to his question, I don't think I've ever been in a room. I've been in a room that has like two ceiling tile, like 2-inch OC703 type, just kind of lined up there. Yeah. Cosmetically more so than acoustically probably, but I haven't been in one that's like had any of those cityscape type things up there that he's talking about.
A lot of times I'll see those in the rear, like on your back wall
or sidewalls even. Yep.
Yeah. A lot of times near the first reflection point, I've seen guys even do that, which I thought that was weird. I want to kill that spot on the first reflection point. I don't want it, like even when I got the GIKs, they're a combo panel, so they're diffusion and absorption, and it just seemed really weird to me. And so I ended up taking the panel off of those first two, and I like that a whole lot better. I just want to kill that sound, anything that's in that first reflection spot. I don't want it to diffuse. I want it to hit my ears just from the main.
There is a measured reason to have diffusion. So somebody asked in here, and I'm going to kind of change questions here.
Yeah.
Mikey asked, what are the limits in diminishing returns on room treatments? Ryan just advised to not treat the whole room. The advice I can give is if you treat an entire room, say with absorption, the room is going to sound overtly dead. And we've talked about this before on this stream, that we as humans like a certain level of distortion. We like a certain level of misalignment with sound bouncing off and coming back at a different time domain than the main arrival of the main wave. So if you fully deaden a room, you can remove too much of that light ambient noise and distortion. So my recommendation is say 50 to 60%, maybe, if you're going in ham. But that's there's so many factors that go into this. You're going to need to probably talk to somebody smarter than I in order to get to the bottom of how much absorption and diffusion you're actually wanting in a specific space, because the room dimensions are going to play a part, the speakers, the subs, the room materials. There's so many factors that go into this in order to treat a room scientifically to get to that number, that I'm not the guy that's going to be able to provide that. But my advice is don't fully absorb a room. It's going to be too dead.
Yeah. And I agree with that, because think about it. Every space that you walk into, especially inside an environment, you're going to have reflected sound. I mean, even in my room here, it's not huge echo because I do have acoustic treatment on my walls here, but you go into my living room, I'm used to hearing echo. You go into a mall, you hear some reverb. You go into your car dealership, you're going to hear some reverb in there. So we're used to hearing that. But the more reverb that you have in that room, the less intelligible.
Now, you don't want to walk into a room and be able to talk and hear the echo or clap and hear the slap back. I mean, you don't want that. Correct. But there is good.
I mean, there's a balance.
There is good reflection. There's bad reflection.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And even Ryan said, like, look, even the experts have different opinions and approaches, even when you're in the know. And we're not.
A mess.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm in the know on
every
treatment.
Every expert you talk to is probably going to have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Case in point, one of the local guys got 3 different experts, acousticians, to draw up a room design, and they were all very different. Like, so much so that he was like, what? Well, how is this? What? There's such different plans.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, I do have one video out of those 720 on my acoustic treatment. Well, actually, I take that back. I have one on my DIY acoustic treatments, and I have about 3 or 4 videos on the GIK panels that I installed. So if you just look up Youthman acoustic panels, you'll probably find all 4 of those videos, or 5. Cool, man. Appreciate it. All right, let's go back here. Mr. Godspeed says, what is the best cleaner to clean polished piano black glossy speakers? I think water. You know,
don't touch
light. Yeah.
I've always used Pledge with a really fine microfiber cloth.
Really? On piano black?
Uh-huh.
Yes. I'm just hesitant to use any kind of cleaner on a speaker. So typically, like, anything I wipe down, even if it's a wood veneer, piano black, when I had my PB16s, I would just take a damp cloth and I'd try to dust it first, like just feather dust it to get the big stuff off. Because the last thing you want to do is take, even your microfiber cloth, and you're rubbing this on, and now you're like grinding those dust particles in, and that, unfortunately, that's why you see it after time. A lot of times there's
swirl
like a
marks
swirl pattern.
Yep.
You got to be real careful with.
I think the ideal for dust would just be air.
Yep.
Yeah,
just
that,
blow it off.
Probably work too. So, just get your leaf blower from your garage.
I did that once, and I was cleaning out my PC and didn't realize that my dad had used it in vacuum mode before.
Oh no!
Hold on, I'm blowing out my PC, and then I turn it away, and this was years ago. But I turn it away, and then all of a sudden, just a bunch of rocks got ejected from it, flying across the patio. And if it had been half a second before, my PC would have been obliterated by all of that. So I don't know how I feel about a leaf blower, maybe an air compressor, but even an air compressor, you may have moisture in the line.
I just saw a new feature in StreamYard. This is pretty cool. It auto stars super chats. So that's cool.
Oh,
so it kind of flags those. I wish it would just make them a different color or put them in a different tab though, because sometimes you guys will throw a super chat or super sticker or whatever, and I don't see it right away. It flags it, but anyway. Mad One Racing says, I'm still faithfully using my Logitech Harmony until it dies. Rock on. I've got mine too. It's a love-hate relationship with that daggone remote though, man. It is so slow. It's like using an iPhone 4. You know? Like you go to scroll and it goes, what do you want me to do? Oh, you want me to move? Okay. And then it scrolls. So it's not real responsive. Anyway, so I started testing Elgato Stream Deck. Cool. To use automation. Picked up one. I'm able to control 30% of my home theater so far. That's not a lot.
Could be problematic.
Any experience using it? I have not used the Stream Deck. I think they're super cool for like live streams and computer use. And but I've seen there's a guy, oh my goodness, Smart Home Solver, I think is his channel. You might have seen him. Real nice guy, but he does a lot in home automation. And I think if I'm correct, he did some videos recently using the Stream Deck and just some really unique ways, you know. So he'll hit, if you're not familiar with Stream Deck, it's like a little device that has, it could have 16 buttons on it, and you program that button to, it's like a macro. It triggers something. Most of the time it would be like I hit one of the buttons and it opens up Chrome to a certain website. Or I hit another one and maybe it turns on my lights here or something like that. But Mad One Racing is using it in his home theater. So it's only able to control about 30% of his home theater so far. So might not be the best application for that, but it might be super cool though. But I haven't used it for that. I'd love to get one for my desk here. I think they're pretty cool. You can have sound effects. You can trigger a whole bunch of things. So, but yeah, check him out. I think it's, I'm wanting to say his channel is Smart Home Solver, I believe. But he's got one on there.
I've used the Stream Deck pretty extensively. I actually have 3 of them on my flight sim rig, and they're just really versatile. They can be used for virtually anything that a PC can do. You can bind buttons to them. You could set macros. You can do time delays, anything. They're commonly used in streaming because you have to do a bunch of different stuff simultaneously, and just by pushing a button from a built macro, it makes it way easier. Yeah,
for sure, Mikey. iPhone 4, man. That's what I feel like, man, when I'm using my Harmony. It's like, because everything we have nowadays is like 120 refresh rate, and you're just used to this. You touch it and it moves like instantly, and the Harmony's like, man, do I really got to get up out of bed to turn your theater on for you? Can't you do that on your own?
I've had really good luck with my RTI, but it's way more expensive.
That's what I feel like though. The Harmony, it's like I said, it's a love-hate relationship. I still am excited about the YIO Remote 2. I think it's literally the only contender right now for the Harmony Elite. Everything else I've reviewed, the Sofa Baton, that's not even close. The Super Joy, no, Best Joy Super Remote, very odd name.
Who comes up with these names?
That one's different. And it worked really well. I was actually pleased with it, but their software was, it needs a lot of work. It wasn't user friendly, but it still to me wasn't Harmony level. But I think the YIO Remote 2 will actually exceed what Harmony brought to the table. Really slick. Yeah, so Geotech says he supported the unfolded circle, the Remote 2 on the Kickstarter. So if you just look up YIO Remote 2, it's fully programmable by the user. The only thing that's going to be kind of stink is Harmony has been in in business for a long time. So they had this massive repertoire of devices that are just fully supported from the get-go. My understanding, talking with the guys at Unfolded Circle or Remote 2, they're not going to have that right off the bat. And so it's going to be user supported. So users are going to have to kind of help them program those. So that might be the one thing that's going to be kind of not frustrating, but it won't be near as easy as saying, okay, I have a Marantz AB10 and it just downloads all the codes into the remote. So, but yeah, it definitely can learn IR, but like I said, you're just going to have more steps to it then. And it's going to be I think about $400, maybe $420. So it's more than the Harmony.
That ain't cheap.
No, but flip side is, the other ones that are, no offense, dealer programming, but I can't do with the dealer programmed kind of remote. I want to have full flexibility on it. So you spend a lot more money on a Crestron, Control4, Savant, RTI, in those solutions. And those are great for people that need that, but I'm just not one of those. Bruce, Ryan, what's with the different background? Yeah, man, what's with it, man? Why do you want to flex your own home theater back there, bro?
I got tired of the other one. So I put it back to this. Man, I'm out of focus.
Up,
Look at that.
Come on, Bruce.
Let's change that. Get me out of this bigness. Take me out of this.
Where's the oversized Ryan head?
Yeah, but I have a green screen back there, so I can change it to whatever I want. That's actually my theater.
Next week will be My Little Pony, so be on the lookout. Mick McFadden says, what about Parasound? It's been a while since they brought out a new product line. Great question. Dude, Mick, Parasound has been doing amps for decades and decades and decades. And it's one of those things, it's like, okay, we've built solid platform. Like, what are they going to improve? I mean, I think one area that Parasound could bring out, and I've suggested this to them, is like a bigger multi-channel amplifier. Because right now, I think the biggest they have is a 5-channel. The A51 and A51 Plus. I'd love to see them come out with a 7-channel or an 11-channel amplifier. But as far as like, how are they going to improve on a 5-channel amplifier? Put a cool new chassis on it, make it look nicer. I mean, their sound quality is there, their build quality is there. So I don't know. I just don't see them as being like this innovative brand, because what are they innovating? The one area I could see them maybe moving into is moving away from AB and possibly going more into some Class D, so that they're, more efficient and less heat that's generated from them. But other than that, I just don't see them. They're not going to be one of these companies that every year they're putting out a new line. It's like this has been rock solid for 10 years and this is the model. That says a lot versus a company that puts out a brand new amplifier every single year just for the sake of putting one out. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
I think you nailed it. I think it's a solid product already.
Yeah, they're definitely up there in the business, man. K-Man, how? Oh, what?
Built to survive a world war. I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to improve on that.
Yeah, they're bricks, man. They're awesome. K-Man says, how would I get started with REW? Great question. Lots of resources on AVS forum, lots of resources on YouTube. I don't have a lot, especially like basics of REW, because I don't use it a ton myself. I mainly use it to measure subwoofers and do frequency sweeps on those, and just to see kind of where they're rolling off on the low frequencies and extension. And I'll do compression testing just to see kind of what their max output is. But other than that, I don't do a lot. Brad from Home Theater Gamer has a series on REW, but it's mainly involving the Mini DSP. And Mini DSP just came out with some new software. So he's doing, I think, a series of videos on that. So, all right, Jonathan, before you have to leave, tell us a story. I don't know what that means. Bruce wants a story. You got story time.
Well, we got a question in our super chat for me, so maybe
we'll do
answer that one.
This will be your last one, and you're heading out. Let me go find it.
It's by Home Theater Nerd.
All right, hang on. Yeah, see, I wish it would make it a different color so it stands out. Home Theater Nerd, appreciate the $5 super chat. Jonathan, can you please talk about your LS12000 Archaea settings from AVS, how it compares to your Pro calibration, and what settings you use now? Great question, man.
Yeah. So let me put a link to you real quick, Michael, and you can throw this in the chat so that people know what we're talking about here. I'm putting a private chat on ours because I can't drop the thing.
I will copy and paste it over here.
So those are the settings that he's talking about. Dave Harper, who's one of the calibrators on AVS Forum, well known, he figured out that the dynamic mode on the Epson LS12000 uses laser dimming a little bit better and has better contrast than any other modes out of the box. That's bright cinema, that's natural. That's the other, like black and white. There's all the other color modes, they don't have as good as contrast as the dynamic mode. But the dynamic mode is typically the color's not good, right? So if you can tame the color in the dynamic color calibration mode, then you actually get a lot better blacks on the Epson. So that's what he's talking about. And just playing around and using some settings that Dave Harper recommended as a kind of a baseline, I fine-tuned those into my own settings, and they turned out pretty good. They're real punchy. And how they compare to like a Pro calibration is, well, one of the guys came over and did a grayscale calibration from the local Kansas City group, and we figured out that my calibration that I enjoyed just subjectively had a little bit of red undertones. And by that, I mean skin had a little bit more redness to it, a little bit warmer, perhaps. So a little bit more warmer than truly accurate, but pleasurably so, in my opinion. And I don't think it's just my opinion either. Like we had talked about in the past, I had a group of guys over here in December timeframe, and we did a comparison, and people seem to really like those settings. So if you have an LS12000, give them a shot and see what you think. What I've done in the meantime is from the 11 point from the 11 point,
go ahead.
From the 11 point grayscale calibration, where it was really deemed to be accurate, I've kind of met in the middle. So at the bottom of that post that Michael linked, you can go in there and you can do fine tuning adjustments for all the color settings. And basically I just kind of met in the middle between what I originally set up subjectively and liked and truly accurate. Now you've got a little bit of variance in models and stuff. So what I'm seeing on mine may not be exactly what you're seeing on yours, but it should be pretty close. And it'd be worth playing with or testing out and see what you think. One of the things that's interesting on this, and we've talked about it a little bit in other podcasts, but I have a light meter and we tested it. So it's not just subjective. You can buy these on Amazon for about $30.
Okay.
If there is bright content on the screen at the same time as very dim content or black content, like say you got a highlighted vase or something and the rest of the screen is black.
Okay.
Like some of those YouTube videos, 4K HDR type videos, 8K HDR type videos. The Epson LS12000 in dynamic mode has better blacks than the JVC NZ7, and notably so, like not just subjectively, by the meter. If the content is all dim, so if you have like say you're watching a sci-fi show and it's just the whole content is very dim with very little light content at all, the JVC has better blacks. But if it's dynamic, if there's very bright and very dim content at the same time, the Epson actually has better contrast measurements. So that is interesting because everybody kind of wouldn't have expected that, I think, going in.
But that's shown on the ANSI contrast numbers in the spec, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, by those specs, the DLP should walk away from any of them, you know, with their 2,000,001 contrast ratio.
Right.
So I think, generally speaking, most people on AVS Forum would have kind of just been surprised or sort of almost not ready to believe that could be possible. But it is possible, and it is the way it is. So it's interesting nonetheless. In super dim content, the JVC still wins. If it's mixed content, the Epson has a little edge in that dynamic mode.
Yeah. And I think it just shows, you know, how much bang for your buck you're getting with the Epson. You know, we saw at MWAVE last year, the LS12000 was fantastic. A beautiful picture. Had a guy run up to me after a side-by-side comparison, and he said, I know the JVC has better blacks. I just saw it side by side. He said, I'm looking at that projector and it looks awesome. And he's like, I'm ready to buy it now and put it in my home theater and he was super stoked about it, man. So it had a beautiful image on it. So
yeah, and there's also one more thing to say on that. The image enhancement settings that Epson has out of the box aren't the best they can be. And JVC's settings out of the box are pretty much tuned to a T. Like JVC does a really good job of making that look good out of the box. So Epson has 5 different default settings, image enhancement 1 through 5, and JVC has several of them as well. Like they have a few, but theirs are all good. Any rate, long story short, you can tailor Epson's image enhancement settings and make them a little bit better. So to the point where the 4K, it's faux 4K. It's not true 4K on the Epson. It's 1080p panels shifted 4 times, like up and down and left and right. You can make it look, unless you're nose to screen, as good as the JVC. And that's not just like exaggerating, like it is. It's really remarkable. So a couple strikes against Epson perhaps for not really getting the most that they could out of the projector, like not making dynamic mode the standard as far as the contrast ratio. Like why isn't that the standard and everything feeds off that? And why isn't the image enhancement, the best it can be out of the box? Because again, it's not just like one person saying like this is good. It's a lot of people. The very popular settings over on AVS forum, a lot of people have really given good comments on them. So there's improvement to be had.
Sure.
That's what it amounts to.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, we're at an hour. So Jonathan, I'm going to give you permission, man. Head on out. Have time with the family. I don't want to get you in trouble.
All right. Thanks, fellas. Good talking to you.
You're awesome, brother.
See you, Jonathan.
Yep. Bye for now.
We'll keep going. Cool, man. So Grave Danger has a question in regards to projectors. Are we going to be selling projectors and speakers at MWAVE? Great question. So number one, Ryan is a dealer. Of course, you can always reach out to him anytime, whether you come to MWAVE or not. I'll drop his email here. Comments. Oh my goodness.
So there's potential. I mean, I won't have any stock there, but there's potential if you drove, right? You could get something and then you could have it and take it home by Monday. There's potential for that.
So here's the other caveat to that. Let me put this back up there. So there are brands that have already told us up front, they're like, hey, look, there are going to be some things that we're bringing to the show that we'd rather not bring back, honestly. It costs them a lot of money to ship that back. And plus, that's the last thing they want to do. They just want to go home, So they're going to be selling some of their gear, some of their speakers, some of the amplifiers and different things, projectors possibly, at a discount. And so if you're there, you definitely can get a good deal. I know last year we had some of the same things. Some guys ended up buying
a lot more this year.
Yeah, they bought some of the Seymour screens at a really crazy, price. They got a really good deal on those. So
well, I'm going to have several projectors demos that need homes.
Yeah.
Speakers, I'm going to have, what am I going to have?
The
KEF
bookshelf?
R3s, Bowers and Wilkins 703, 603, something. Martin Logan B100s, Klipsch 600 M2s, Focal 906 Arias. There's another one that I'm forgetting. I don't remember what it is. But SVS Primes are going to be another one. So I'm going to have all of those in pairs that are going to need homes that are just going to be having used at the show. And
one of them. Yeah, one speaker will be used. The other one will be brand new in a box.
And I'm sending them all to Aaron to get measured. So they're going to be measured beforehand because they're going to be used on Saturday night for the speaker comparison. And then I'm probably going to use several pairs of B100s for things like cable comparisons and amp comparisons and stuff on that Lazy Susan. So there's going to be lots of stuff that's going to need to find homes.
Chris said he already has dibs on a pair.
Well, if you any rumor on JVC bringing new models for Cedia, no idea.
Yeah. Most brands are they keep stuff really tight-lipped. I mean, they're not going to let stuff out prior to the announcement date, whatever that is. And a lot of times, even if I do get access to that, like I'll get press releases ahead of time. Most of the time, those are NDAs. So non-disclosure agreements. We're not able to say, because the last thing, if I share that with you guys and it's prior to the date that their marketing team is ready to launch and announce that, then that's the last time they're going to share that information with me. And so I take that very seriously. And same thing with Ryan as a dealer. I know that they have they'll send them information. Sometimes dealers, they don't know until they are announced.
Yeah, they usually try and keep us in the know because we have to be able to prepare ahead of time and make sure that we're making smart decisions for everything. So they try.
I don't get a notice on every brand that, you know, is releasing new SRW 1000. We can keep a secret. Yeah. I promise I haven't heard anything, even if I had signed an NDA. I don't mind telling you I've heard something. I just can't tell you what, but I haven't even heard anything. So that's not even a factor. All right, let's see. Boyd says, do any of you have 9-speaker bed layer setup? Looking for some good content. Any suggestions? So is there any content for 9, like native 9 channels? Any movies that are mixed in 9.1 that you know of? Or is our processors doing that?
I don't know. I don't usually pay attention to what they're mastered in.
I just listen for a good soundtrack, man. Yeah, I don't have 9 speakers in mind. Ryan, you have how many in your bed layer?
11.
Okay. So you've got front wides.
And rear wides.
Rear wides.
Yeah.
So, yeah, drop it in the chat if you guys know as well.
I don't usually pay attention to channel numbers for theaters.
Yeah. 314 Carpenter, I'd like to volunteer for teardown at MWAVE Sunday night. I have plenty of tools and maybe I can bring some skills. Sorry, I can't make it for the build out. Where do I sign up? Great question, man. So if any of you are coming to MWAVE and you want to volunteer, we definitely are going to need people setting up and tearing down, especially because we've got so many more vendors this year. And I know they can use some help just bringing speakers in from trailers and helping to set those up. And of course, they're going to be doing calibration and stuff, but it's kind of cool to be able to handle these, you know, awesome, you know, gear and helping them out, working directly with the manufacturers themselves. A lot of these, you're going to be kind of mingling and talking with the owners of these companies. So that's even cool in itself. But if you go to the website, MidwestAVExperience.com, and right under the attend, there's an option right down here, volunteer. So just go there, click volunteer, fill out your information, and then there's some check boxes, what you're able to help out with, whether it's set up on Thursday or Friday, tear down, registration, photography, so much. We've got the photography covered. We've hired a couple guys, but yeah, so that's where you would do that. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, we definitely, we needed lots of help last year, and I think we're gonna need even more this year. But it's cool, man. It's like I tell people, you know, I've been to people's homes and I'm helping them move speakers and calibrate and unhook this and set up that, and they're like, man, I'm so sorry to, you know, you're having to do all this work. I'm like, what do you mean work? This is fun, man. This is what we do. And so I think that's a lot of what MWAVE is when you volunteer. It's like, look, we're just hanging out playing with some cool toys and getting to know some of these brands on a personal level, which is really, really exciting. So looking forward to seeing you there again this year. Joker, anyone know if the JTR 888s would make a good LCR? So I'm not familiar with their 888s. Oh, I did see it in one home theater. So that's one of the older discontinued series, I believe, right? Have you seen those, Ryan?
I mean, I'm sure I have. I just don't remember.
Yeah. I think they had a different woofer. I mean, I'm sorry, a different. Yeah, here you go. I'll show you a picture here. Present.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sure. Those would make good fronts.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of different. Like, hard to see what's going on there. So if those are 888s, is the middle one or the top one the concentric driver? I don't know what those are. I'm just not familiar with that model. It's one that Jeff discontinued a while back. I think
I'm sure they'd be fine at a good if you got them at a good price.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular model.
I don't see any compression driver.
Yeah, I don't know where that's at. Like, is it a coaxial driver in that? Is it a compression driver? I'm not sure how that was how that was set up.
I don't know how those speakers are designed.
Geotech says a coaxial mid-range with a compression tweeter. Now, was that the middle driver? I'm assuming,
I
not
think
the
it's the
top
middle
one.
driver.
Yeah, okay. It was just hard to see because of the speaker grills.
They'd be great.
He said it's in the throat of the middle driver. Okay, so it's kind of their MTM, same setup, just a little bit different. Joker currently using Focal Cora 826 series with the JTR AAAs people are changing out to. Again, man, they're totally different speaker.
Yeah, but it's just going to come to, do you feel like you're missing anything?
Yeah.
I mean, the Coras aren't bad speakers.
They're going to have different sound characteristics. So like Ryan said, what do you like? So it's hard for me to tell you what your ears are going to enjoy. So that's kind of a difficult question to answer. Bruce says, on this note, sometimes I can make out the acoustic weave waves on my screen when watching stuff. Would that be less noticeable or more noticeable without the black backing? I don't think if you're talking about the waves, I'm assuming you mean when the bass hits. That's the only time I've ever
he's talking about the weave. Like you can see the weave of the screen
weave wave. Okay.
In a weave screen or the perforations in a perforated screen. Potentially on a
I don't
perforated
think
maybe because you wouldn't be able to see the black, but no.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Bruce. Like I have a Seymour Center Stage XD screen and it's a weave, and Seymour recommends that you should be, I think it's like 10 feet, maybe 11 feet from it. I'm 9 foot from it and I don't see the weave. But I'm not like, I don't have eagle eye vision either, you know, so that's to my benefit. But if you're seeing that weave, there are other types of even tighter weaves that you don't see that. I know Seymour has the
center stage is perforated.
No, it's not. It's a weave.
I'm looking at it.
Dude, I'm telling you, I own it. It is a weave. Center Stage XD is a weave. It is not a perf screen. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at their website.
I'll pull it up. Center Stage XD. Seymour AV. Let's see. Center Stage XD AT screen. Where does it say? Fine weave. Yeah, it says the finer weave allows you to sit closer. Features in the weave. It's all about the weave, man. That may look like from the pictures that it's
no, I just saw him talking about holes per inch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a weave. They do have, I think it's the Center Stage UF. So that allows you to sit closer without being able to see that weave. It's a tighter weave. So it might be one of those things where you know, if that's bothersome to you, I just don't think you can fix that with adding a black fabric, you know, backing to it. I think it's physically, you're just seeing the texture of that screen at the distance that you're sitting from it. Curtis says, thanks guys. Another question I have is, what's the best media server for downloading movies and giving you great intro to your dedicated theater? I can't tell you any. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna
downloading movies and giving you a great intro to your. I mean, Kaleidoscape.
Yeah, I mean, I can't.
The only one that does it legally.
Yeah, I can't recommend something where you can download movies. If you want to figure that out on your own or search for that, that's fine. As far as intros, the only thing that, I mean, Dolby has some free downloads, like their Dolby trailers and stuff you could use as an intro. But as far as, you know, downloading movies, yeah, you have to be on your own on that one, unfortunately, sir. Deepak says, question, thoughts on the REL number 32 versus Perlisten D215s? All right. REL.
That's not even a competition.
I know, but I'm gonna look. All right, so number 32 is 1,000-watt subwoofer. Okay, that's their big boy.
1,000 watts.
It's a big one.
No, I'm saying that's it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. So there's that's $10,000. Quite expensive. It's got a 15-inch driver, 1,000-watt amp. So let's look down here. I'm going to look at specs. So it goes down to 15 hertz, but it's down 6 dB.
Down 6 dB.
See, that's what's frustrating. It's like, why would you even post that it's capable of 15 if it's down 6 dB?
Burp.
So anyway, yeah. I don't know.
Perlisten. They post all of their measurements for all of their stuff. There's no reason. Perlisten is one of the only subs that I would want in my house.
Yeah. Put it this way. I heard a Perlisten back before they even announced it. It was their 10-inch, dual 10-inch. It was in a go look at, if you search for Youthman Perlisten Insider. I did an interview at their headquarters and I showed you the room that they were in. This room is pretty much massive. It's bigger than any living room that you could ever have because the ceiling was like 30 feet. Huge open space. It wasn't even an enclosed room, yet I'm feeling the impact from technically four 10-inch woofers. And I'd never experienced 10s that did that. It was phenomenal. I've experienced the 215s in a home theater. They're, for lack of better words, they're balls to the wall.
Yep.
Like they're bonkers. So these are rated. You can get, just depending on what setting. There's a THX setting, there's a boost setting, there's a cut. You can get as low as 13 hertz.
Oh, the D215s.
Well, but they're showing them 13 hertz down 10. So they're actually showing down 60. Yeah, let me pull this up. So they're showing down 6 dB too. So just to be fair, let's take a look at Perlisten.
Guys, don't do that.
I'm not sure. That's interesting. Why they're... I'm going to be like -3 dB. Like, show me plus or minus 3. Okay, that's a pretty flat frequency response. But regardless, man, there's a ton of output in these things, man. They're insane. So yeah, my vote would be Perlisten. I've heard, like I said, I've heard the 210s at Florida Audio Expo. I've heard them at their showroom, their headquarters. I've heard the 215S in one home theater tour. I'm trying to think if I think that was the only one that I've heard. But they're phenomenal, man. Like,
my argument for this is go and try and find unbiased measurements on the REL. You won't find them. But if you try and do that on Perlisten, I mean, Audioholics has them. A bunch of content creators have them. And Perlisten even posts them.
Yeah. For sure.
Plus, Perlisten has the built-in rooming queue.
Yeah. Yeah, they're... I don't know. What are the D215S MSRP? What are they each?
I'm looking.
I don't even know. I think they're about 9, right?
That sounds about right.
And was that a single 15 on that REL?
Yeah.
Design.
Why am I not?
I want to say I think it's a single driver. Let's see. I just want to make sure it's not two. Yeah, so there's a single 15 versus dual 15s in a push-pull configuration. So yeah, I would take dual 15s over a single 15. Yeah.
So
I think easy choice. Yeah, Brian Kramer says about $9,000 each.
8,800. Where is it? 212s, D212s. Jeez. I hate my distributor's website. It's not organized or alphabetized at all.
Ryan says Perlisten clocks in with 2,000 more watts, not for nothing.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't mean anything in the audio world. So they are
about 9, roughly.
MSRP. Well, they just went up in May.
Okay.
Beginning of May. So they're 10 grand.
Okay. So price-wise, they're comparable.
Same price, but you're going to get a lot more out of the Perlisten than you are out of the REL. There's just the Perlisten is an endgame sub. Yeah. I mean, why do you look at all of the REL photos and they've got like 17 of those things stacked? Don't have the output. So I think you're just going to get a better experience. I understand that, yes, you could stack the D215s, you get a better experience and stuff. You gain 3 dB from the doubling of drivers and 3 dB from the doubling of amps. I get it, and you could flatten your frequency, but you just get a lot out of the Perlistens. And if anybody needs them, get your orders in quick because they're backing up. Perlistens selling
and
a lot of stuff.
I know it sounds self-serving to say, oh yeah, by the way, I sell it. The reality is there's a reason why he sells Perlisten. And just based on even some of the comments, again, do some third-party measurements, like go and look and see what's out there. See who's measured both of those subwoofers apart from the manufacturers themselves, because that of course can be biased for any manufacturer, but get a third party that's looked at these and experienced them, and like, what does that look like? So
yeah, I try and only really rep brands directly, the ones that I value and put in my home. And those are ones that I put in my home. I mean, I try and walk the walk. I rep a lot more than that through distribution and stuff, but the guys that I am direct with are the ones that I would put in my house for good reason.
All right. Charlie B says, Jonathan, we'll try to answer it. Is the Epson LS12000 compatible with a 2.35:1 cinematic screen? Yes. Do they have I guess the question probably is, do they have lens memory? That I don't know. I think they do.
They do. They have lens memory. The only projector that I know of that is, there are some out there that probably have different lenses, that is native to be able to show that without any overspill is Barco with their CS lenses. Everything else, you're going to lose about 20% of your light off the top and bottom, unless you use an anamorphic lens.
Yeah. So, but if you're asking about like the lens memory, so yeah, so the the Epson, JVC, Sony does not. Is that right? Do they have
5000? The XW5000 does not.
Okay, so you had to go 6 or 7 to get that. Okay, I wasn't sure. I knew some of them didn't, but I wasn't sure the model numbers. Brian W says, how is Jonathan's AV10 upgraded from the 6700? A worthy upgrade so far, or would you try something else? So he still has his AV10, right?
Yeah, he's happy with it. He'll be the first to tell you he doesn't think there's any sonic difference between the two. Yeah. But he got more channels. He got Dirac upgradability if he wants it.
It's more flexibility, but it wasn't like a night and day. I do remember him saying that. Randy McMahon says, all these questions are for Jonathan. Can you expand more on why your subwoofer setup sounds so great with subwoofers being placed in 1/3 to 2/3 of your room? My room is 20 by 26 by 8-foot ceilings, got 418s, Ultimax driver. Yeah, I know that he had mentioned he played around a bunch with placement of his subwoofers, and a lot of that was even the kind of the arch that he's got them set up with now, and he just got the best frequency response. And so part of that is just measuring and just seeing what works best in your room, using something like a calibrated microphone and REW. And of course, you've got multiple 18s, you got 4 of them. So you're going to need something, whether it's one of the new AVRs that has 4 independent sub outputs so that they can address time delay and that sort of thing, or get something like a 2x4 HD from Mini DSP to dial that in. So all right, so I don't think we've addressed this one. Big Bass, appreciate the $5 super chat. Thoughts on 12 HT110 speakers on the floor? Okay, so this is JTR's 110s and 3 rows. Help me understand what he's saying here.
He's saying 3 rows of 3, so 9 speakers.
Okay, so 9 total. Oh wow.
Why would you do that?
What are you going to power that? Okay, so he's talking Storm Audio and an ISP MK3 from Storm Audio and TV42 iPal. So that's Parasound Audio subwoofers as a bed frame. Man, I'm a little confused on your verbiage here. A bed frame facing up, one man. I'll be honest.
I think he's talking about with a TV42 iPal on facing up underneath the seating or something.
Again, I'm not sure what your question is. Thoughts on, can you run the HT110s as your floor level? Absolutely. Those are coaxial drivers.
Why would you do 12 though?
I don't know. But again,
you'd want 11 and 9, 3 rows of.
Yeah, it's an interesting combination. So I'm not sure.
I don't think I would do that.
Yeah, just
There's
do 6.
The Storm doesn't even support that setup.
Yeah. Yes, I would, in something like that, just do an 11 bed layer. Well, you wouldn't even need an 11 bed layer.
You do 11 bed layer. You do, you'd probably do 2 front heights.
You got to have a big room for that too.
Yeah, with those kind of speakers, for sure.
I mean, 11 speakers.
30. So. Who makes a 33-inch sub?
I don't know, man. Like I said, there's so many questions on this super chat. I appreciate it, but maybe you can give us some more insight, because I'm a little lost on some of the question there. Shampoo Time says, I've upgraded from the PB2000 to the PB16 Ultra. That's a huge upgrade, and was expecting a massive difference, but it's only slightly better. Interesting. Check my setting over and over, but my expectations were too high. I don't think so. I have reviewed the PB3000, and I would easily say the PB16 is quite extensively a bigger upgrade. So I would expect the 2000 to be even a bigger upgrade, going from 2000 to PB16. First question is in the same exact position. Second question, have you measured them to see what are the frequency responses? They should technically, in theory, have about the same frequency response if they're in the same position in your room, because that's going to be dependent on how it's interacting.
PB16 is going to be able to dig deeper. He may be sitting in a null.
It could be, but like I said, you're kind of guessing if you don't measure. I would definitely recommend.
I don't have an answer for that.
Thank you. I didn't ask her for.
Siri does the same thing to me.
It's like, I didn't ask your opinion over there, but thank you. But I would recommend get a calibrated microphone, something like a Mini DSP, UMic 1, UMic 2, Dayton Audio makes one, OmniMic makes one, bunch of different ones depending on your budget. But without taking measurements, I mean, you're kind of guessing. Like Ryan said, you may be sitting in a big null. And honestly, you might be in a null with the PB2000, and then you get the PB16, and you still got that same null because the subwoofer didn't move. And so where you might experience a massive bass, again, you might be sitting in a valley in those frequency, that frequency range. So that would be my recommendation, is get a mic, measure, learn REW, at least just the basics. It's not difficult to run just a bass frequency sweep. That'd be my suggestion. Chris, so anyone using NVIDIA Shield Pro as a NAS, asking for a friend as a NAS? Like, how do you? I'm not familiar with NAS. Well, I mean, I get it, but so he's talking about just plugging a hard drive up to it. So yeah, I mean, I did that for a long time. It wasn't a Pro. I think it's just one of the older NVIDIA Shields that had the internal storage. So the internal storage was my Plex server, and then it was connected to the back of the NVIDIA Shield. It was a hard drive that had some media on it.
It's not ideal, and the NVIDIA Shield can be pretty slow when used in that capacity.
So, but it can work.
My recommendation is just use a
PC,
secondhand PC, and run it as a server, and put the Plex server on there.
Yeah,
put the hard drive to it, or put the internal hard drives in it.
Yeah, Mikey says you can use a USB on the Shield, but it's not.
You can.
Large files.
It's slow.
Yeah. Home Theater Nerd, appreciate. Did we answer this one?
We did that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Jeremiah says, question: fully enclosed basement theater, 12 foot wide by 21 foot long by 8 foot ceiling, 2 rows of seating, 3 seats per row. Would 2 10s or 2 12s be too much, or would it be better with 1 14 or 16 sub looking new Klipsch subs? So if you're looking at the new Klipsch subs, I would 100% recommend go 2 subs. I always recommend that versus a single sub.
Depends on which one.
All right, so he's saying, would he go with 2 10s forget the model numbers. 1000 SW, I think it's called, or 212s, or does he want 116? You know, the age-old recommendation that we try to give sometimes is get the best subwoofer that you can, and then if that's not enough, down the road get another one.
Because what's going to happen is you're going to buy two, and then you're going to experience something that's more, or you're always going to have FOMO later on, and then you're going to end up being stuck with these two smaller ones or having to sell them at a loss, and then you're going to upgrade anyway.
Yeah,
I battle this all the time. And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to be fine with this. And inevitably, no, I never am. Yeah. It always ends up, oh, I got to sell that. So I just stop doing that because it's not worth it. So I highly encourage you. My advice to anyone is you buy the biggest, baddest sub you can now, if you can only afford one, and then put another one in later.
If you need it, you may not.
You're going to be happier that way.
Yeah,
that's not a small room.
So, you know, in reference to the new Klipsch subs, you know, of course, we all realize that Klipsch has not been the forefront of subwoofer performance over the years. They've had amp failures, and they're okay subs. They're definitely nothing amazing.
Are there any measurements on the new ones yet, though?
I don't think so. They haven't really sent a lot of them out yet. So, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that. So here, you know, we got Smigs. Don't buy Klipsch, JC, just buy JTR. I get it. The reality is there is a massive difference between a Klipsch sub price-wise and a JTR sub price-wise. Massive difference. So that's not truly apples to apples. I mean, I would see an SVS and a Klipsch. Okay, those are comparable price ranges. If someone suck it up and buy some horsepower, dude, Smigs is pulling no punches, man. He's just telling it like it is. I love it. But yeah, so I'm optimistic about their new subwoofers. But again, we don't.
I think we're all hoping for the best. We just don't know. There's no data or anything yet. I'm hoping Audioholics gets something soon so we can see James and the measurements.
And Mikey's correct. There's always options. Okay. Regardless, you need to do your homework. There's plenty of subwoofers out there. There's going to be subwoofers that perform better, same price, less price. Of course, there's DIY. You can get so much more bang for your buck. There's a lot of options. You just have to do the research and figure out what works best for you. I'm not going to tell you JTR is the best or REL is the best or PSA is the best or whatever. You got to figure out what's best for you. Buy once, cry once. Yeah, we say that often. And I tell you what, here's the thing though. When it comes to subwoofers, that is the one of the two areas that I always tell people, do not skimp out.
Well, and it always gets overlooked.
Man,
almost everyone overlooks it. Because they're like, I'm going to spend X amount of money on speakers, and then they put this one sub in. I deal with this as a custom installer all the time. They want these awesome speakers, and then they don't want to spend money on the sub, and they don't realize it really should be almost 50-50 as far as speakers and subs. Because if you think about how much content is down below your crossover point, it's huge.
Yeah,
there's a massive amount, and that's what you feel in content. So,
and think about this too. Let's say you have, like in my space, I have 11 speakers. I'm handing the bass frequencies off from 11 speakers to a single subwoofer or to two subwoofers. You know, why would I want to go and get, you know, something that's super budget friendly? And that's fine if that's what your budget allows. If your budget's like $500 or less, I always recommend go find something used, because you'll get so much more bang for your buck buying used equipment. But if you got a decent budget, man, save up, sell some stuff in your garage that you hadn't used in 10 years. Literally,
Supernova had me in the first half. JTR is only for dedicated home theater rooms, and then they don't have the wife approval factor, which I totally agree with.
Totally get it. You know, they're not good looking speakers at all.
They're not.
Just for performance.
Jeff, you make awesome speakers. They're just not attractive.
No, and he knows that, and he doesn't care. He's like, this is the audience, this is the demographic that I'm going after. See, like I like this. So he says, I bought small definitive technology 8s and upgraded to an SVS 2000. Now I have a Monolith 16. What a waste of money all that was. Okay, so he's saying the DepTech 18s, then going to the SVS, he should have just went with a 15. So I get it, man. So yeah, there's a lot of great options out there. So definitely do your homework. But I'm a big fan, man. Once I went from a 10 to a 15, I've never looked back. I went from a Velodyne 10-inch to a Velodyne 15-inch, then to their higher end Velodyne 15-inch, to 2 of those Velodyne 15s, to 4, eventually 4 Klipsch RSW 15s, to PB 16s, to JTR Captivator RS2s.
How much are the Klipsch the new Klipsch subs?
I had it on my the big boy. I think is about $2,000.
So here's something that I want you guys to think about with subs.
RP.
When you get to the end, right? And there is an end. When you get to the end, as far as buying single drivers or subwoofers, there is no, well, I need to get rid of this sub because I want to get something better. The only thing that happens is you add more, right? Because there's nothing better to replace that one sub. So then you just get multiples of that sub. So once you get to the end, right, if you buy a first-rate, best-in-class subwoofer, like if you eat it and say, I'm just going to buy an RS1 from JTR, or if you buy like a sub 18 from me from RTJ, same thing. Then you don't go sell that sub to go buy something better. You just add another one. You add more drivers and more amplification to build out the system. So the FOMO goes away because you're not worried about, did I make a mistake? Because it's with subs, right? When we're comparing them with speakers, a lot of times you can EQ a bad speaker to sound decent a lot of times. Given proper room EQ and stuff. But if the sub can't do it, right? If the sub can't dig far enough, if it doesn't have the output, and the same thing kind of goes with output with speakers and stuff. But if I look at this with subs, if your sub can't do it, it can't do it. And there's no being able to fix that. If it doesn't have the excursion, the output, any of that, you're just stuck. So I think, and this is why I do recommend, get the biggest, baddest sub you can get now, and the FOMO goes away.
Yeah. So think about this too. Let's say you're watching a movie like Interstellar and you're doing the wormhole scene, and it just goes not. Is that right? Is that in Interstellar, the wormhole? Okay. So that one, Interstellar also has the rocket launch. So there's a couple of scenes that will just literally rock your subwoofers.
Well, they'll bake your subwoofers too if they're turned up too high.
Sounding, I mean, think about this. You got it cranked, you got guest over, and it just starts sounding horrible. Like, that's just the last thing you want to do in the middle of a movie is turn your subwoofers down because they sound like they're about to fall apart. You know, you really want to make sure that you have capable subwoofers. Wormhole. That's the wormhole, right? Am I wrong?
No,
call me out now if I'm wrong. He says wormhole. Yeah, I think it's worm.
It is.
Yeah. So maybe that sounded like I said wormhole. Worm. That's my country accent down here in Florida. So yeah, but yeah, I'm all for buying good quality subwoofers. So but yeah, so again, here's the 1600 SW. So that's 16-inch driver, $1,800. It's a little bit under $2,000. Are there other subwoofers out there? Sure. So again, do your research, check them out. We just don't have a lot of third-party verification yet. I haven't received any of them. I haven't gotten any word on, they said, hey, we're supposed to be getting some in soon. We'll send you some. So, but I don't know when that'll be or how much, or like what, not how much, but what they're sending. So Mikey himself says, what are the limits of diminishing return on room treatments? Ryan just advised not to treat. Okay. Sean Serif says, hey guys, what movie first got you interested in home theater? Great question. Probably for home theater, the first one that I can remember was Top Gun. So I was in probably 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade. And I went to the movie theater and I was just wowed by what I was hearing. And we had a guy later on when I was in college that had the big laser disc. He was my roommate. And so he had the laser disc player and we had a pair of my speakers. It was just 2. And I remember we bought Top Gun on laser disc. And so that was just, I think that was one of my first ones for home theater that really kind of engaged this idea and concept of surround sound. What was yours, Ryan?
Jurassic Park.
Very cool.
Yeah, same premise.
Actually, here's another one, Twister. All right, so this is gonna make me sound really old. I bought it on VHS. It was a hi-fi VHS, which meant it was in stereo, which is amazing. That's sad, man. But yeah, that was cool because it was like whoosh. Tar Hoya says, I'm setting up my first 7.2.4, but have to use wall-mounted heights because I'm renting and have a steep slope ceiling. For spacing, should they be in line with the left and right or closer, further apart? Okay. So he's talking about in like where. So honestly, this is where it gets real tricky, because if you look at those PDF documents that he was showing earlier, a lot of times they're very in line with that. But then if
they're
you go
supposed to be,
I don't know though. I've seen other people recommend that that's not actually absolutely correct. You don't always want them. A lot of times they say to put them outside your row of seating. I think a good place to even start would just use an online like theater designer, like Audio Advice has got one on their website. And so you can plug them in there, put your speaker configuration, and supposedly they've hired some guys to come in and mathematically figure out what Dolby recommends. And so when you adjust the sliders, it'll let you know, okay, that's not ideal. That's too far out, or that's too far in. So that would be my recommendation. Just going to their website and kind of visually seeing that.
The key is you need to have enough separation between your bed layer and your heights in order for them to work correctly. Otherwise, it's gonna get lost.
Yeah.
So the reason you want them, they're in the line over top, is because it provides separation, and you get true at that point with what the documentation is showing. And obviously there's like there is with the surround channels, there is a space in which you could put them, right, to adhere to Dolby spec. But the tops are supposed to be top, right? So if you're doing heights, the tops and the heights are different. The heights are going to be like above your fronts, like your front heights. Then you have your rear heights. Then you have your tops and your voice of God. And so it just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're doing your tops, they need to be over you in some sense. And the more over you I think you can get them with the separation of the side channels, the better. And in an apartment, I totally get that you're limited in space. So if you got to put them on the wall, like out to the sides in their tops, you just got to get them high enough that they're separated from your bed layer. Otherwise, they're just going to blend together. If they're tops, it's the same. You just got to do the same for your fronts and have them separated enough up above is what it's going to come down to. You're just in a tough spot with limited space and limited options.
All right, Jed, I got to know what's the question there? Not question, but he says, oh gosh, not another 4 months of Atmos video. So I haven't been, if you guys have noticed, I haven't been chopping up the podcast into like clips. Originally I started doing that, but it kind of, it's weird because people see these additional videos. Like think about this, we're answering 30 questions. So that technically could be 30 clips. And so let's say I make a video last week on a review, and then now I've got 10 other videos in between one review and another. So you're clicking through videos thinking you're getting, it just gets kind of confusing. So I think what I'm doing is putting, he's talking about clips, or he's talking about the shorts. Now I do add some shorts there. But I haven't been chopping them up and uploading them as actual full videos, because I think it's just a weird dynamic. People don't know what to expect. So I figured, you know what, I'll just kind of hold back on that and instead maybe go back through, like say tomorrow, and try to add some timestamps. I did that on, I think last week's. No, I know what it was. The last week when we had Richard from Mad VR.
It's probably easier.
Yeah,
that way.
So now, as far as like from a business perspective, it's less because there's less views, less revenue, but I would rather provide a better experience for you guys than to gain a little bit extra money, if that makes sense. So I think I'm torn on what's best to do. I haven't thought about starting another channel just to do the AV experience clips and just post them over there. Still leave the podcast here, but then have links over on that other channel. So I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. But yeah, you're right, Jed. Tons of videos between creators fighting about the correct Atmos angles. Yeah, I don't even try to claim to be an expert because it's confusing. I'll be honest with you. And I wish it was less confusing. Because some people say, oh, you need to draw out your room. You know, what Dolby shows is studio for home, but really you need to be looking at the studio, and here's why. And so, yeah,
just do what works best for your room.
Yeah. I think there's more tolerance than what we like to believe. Like some people like to teach it. All right, man, you got to have it like right here. You're not going to get an amazing experience. I don't think that's quite right. I think there's some things that you can do that'll hinder that experience, like what Ryan's talking about. If you've got your, say your bed layers way up on your wall, and then like 2 feet above that is your Atmos, you're not going to get much separation there. So you're not going to get this bubble effect. So I think there's definitely some things that, Rasiki says stick to the Trinnov guide. So I'm not familiar with the Trinnov guide.
But then you're trusting what Trinnov thinks is correct.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, it's a hodgepodge. So speaking of Trinnov, Rocksteady says, is it worth saving up for a Trinnov Altitude 16 or an Anthem Avian 90 for in-game processing? Great question.
That depends on what you need. I'm going to throw a wrench in there and say go Storm, but that's maybe I'm biased.
A little.
The benefit of a Storm is with an ISP chassis and stuff is it's fully reconfigurable and upgradable. Not that, a Trinnov isn't necessarily upgradable, but the Storm, like we talked about earlier when Baysama asked the question about Dante having digital and analog in the same chassis, I could buy a 32-channel analog ISP and then the next year decide, hey, I want to go Dante or full digital. I don't have to buy a full new chassis. I just buy the cards and I'm done, right? So it's a chassis that stays with you. You just buy into the architecture, the ecosystem, and then it upgrades with you along your path. I really like the flexibility that Storm allows. The Anthems, I think, are decent. You're just kind of stuck. I've had some issues with Anthems as of late with the HDMI boards, the outputs. To take that for what it is, I've had issues with my work through MadVR. I can't say that there's a known problem. It's just I've run into some problems. But I like Storm. If you're looking for an end game, that's it. I mean, even if they release a Mark IV next year and you got a Mark III, you can upgrade the main board and turn it into a Mark 3.5. So it's, again, a chassis that stays with you throughout the course of your home theater journey instead of just buying, say, a processor or AVR that is set in that way and then having to buy a full new one later on down the road.
No, that wouldn't apply to Trinnov though, right? They have an upgrade plan as well, my understanding.
Yeah, but you can't change to full digital. I don't think you can.
Yeah, now that part I don't know on the technical side of it, but I think there's a big difference between what Anthem has to offer. Like you said, with Anthem, if you want to upgrade, you just got to sell it and buy something else. With Trinnov and Storm, they have kind of an upgrade path on that.
I bought a Storm before I was a dealer, and I would do it again.
What's the MSRP? Now, there's a couple models in Storm, rough MSRPs on those.
I think for a Core 16, you're looking at low to mid-teens.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
It's around 15.
Somewhere in there.
12, 13,
something
14.
Like that.
Okay.
But you get a full, if you buy a Storm from me, you get a full on-site room calibration and setup and stuff with it because I fly out and take care of you.
Nice.
It's a very different experience than buying.
He's coming to your house. You're feeding him.
No. I mean, you can if you want, but,
I love it.
Along this question, there's another one that says, what do you mean by full digital? Well, it would be digital out. And the reason you do that is because there's no digital to analog conversion. So if I did something like digital on the processor to a active speaker with built-in DSP, right? There's no transition until the DSP happens in the speaker. So if I do digital analog and then send that to, I don't know, some other amp, and then you're making an analog to digital conversion, and then you can go back into digital and back into analog. So this way you're only doing it once.
So there's less conversions, I guess.
Theoretically, it's cleaner. Would you be able to hear a difference? I don't know. Storm's making some headway in a lot of studios and stuff going this direction. I think it's probably the way of the future. I mean, instead of running like speaker wires everywhere, if you had active speakers with a built-in DSP, you'd just run Ethernet.
Gotcha.
Over a network. It wouldn't even have to all home back to the ISP. It would just talk over the network.
Okay. So here's a non-home theater related. So Mikey himself says he did notice one of my recent shorts, the YouTube shorts, and those are vertical format videos, not the horizontal like you're watching here. It was one of my shorts was recommended to him, so he watched it, and I guess it said that there was a link to 5 tips improving. It's probably the 5 tips on how to improve your center channel. So I remember making that one, but it didn't link to the video. Yeah. So basically there's 2 ways of doing that. So in the YouTube Studio app on my phone, I can click on a video, let's say 5 tips on how to improve your center channel dialogue. I can click on that video, and YouTube in the app will allow me to select any 1-minute section, but I can't edit the video. It's literally like, okay, maybe it's 0 to 1 minute, or maybe it's the 1 minute to 2 minute mark. So you just have to adjust the slider. And then if you do it that way, it will physically have a link like built into the app and to that video that you can click on, and it'll take you over to the full video. What I've been doing lately is taking a video, let's say like this. Let's say this was my review video, and I took a section of that and I edited it, physically edited it, or used some AI tools that I've used to edit some of those videos, and just upload that as a YouTube short. Basically, the only way to link that video is just put a link in the comments. So maybe next time, just click on the comments and I'll pin a topic, because that's what I've been doing with them. And it just says link to full video, and then you click there. But natively in the app, there's not a way to upload a video and then link it to a full video, if that makes sense. The only way to do that right now is to take a video and just use a certain 1-minute section, and then it will link to that full video. But a lot of times you don't want to just take a minute of that. You want to take parts of different places and compile that into a video. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, YouTube Shorts is still kind of new for all of us content creators. We know that YouTube is pushing them because they're trying to compete with TikTok. TikTok is kicking everybody's butt in vertical format. And so YouTube wants a piece of that pie, and they want they want to keep as many people on their platform as possible. And so they're implementing the YouTube Shorts. Yeah, Mikey says, I remember I was tapping away trying to find it on my phone, but did end up getting to it later. He found it on the PC. So again, it's a new format. They're always trying to improve it. So whether or not we like it or not, it's here to stay. I'm just glad that they've separated it now. It used to just be like all in the middle, and you think you're watching a full video and you're ended up watching a 30-second clip of something, and it just wasn't that great of a user experience. But we're learning, man. All right, Jay says, what's up, guys? I'm looking for a new AVR receiver like the Marantz SR7015, which is a great receiver. So that's a little bit older, and the Cinnamon 40, which is a newer one. Which would you recommend? Again, 40. What are your needs? Partly, the
Cinema 40. The benefit of it is 4 sub outs, and you get the potentiality for Dirac if you want to go that direction.
Sure.
Those are going to be the big 2.
I mean, one's going to be discontinued. So Cinema 40 is $3,500, and I guarantee you the SR7015 is not even close to that. SR7015, can you buy that? Let's see, 7015. Pull it up. Okay, so you're talking $2,000 versus $3,500. That's a big difference, So again, I would look at kind of like what Ryan's talking about. Look at the different features, figure out, what features do you want? If you want Dirac Live, okay, Cinema 40 makes sense. If you need the 4 pre-outs, okay, for subwoofers. I was looking at one's a 9.2, one's a 9.4, so they're basically still 9 bed layers, probably pretty equal on power. The Cinema 40 is 125 watts. SR 7015 is, there it is. Nope. Trying to find power specs. There we go. So that one is 125. Yeah, so they're similar power. So a lot of the same features. It's a big jump price-wise.
The Cinema 40 looks better.
Oh, of course it does. That thing looks beautiful.
It does.
I'm so glad they changed them. And it's not a big change, but at least it's something. I mean, we've had that same chassis for seems like decades.
The 4 subs, the 4 independent sub outs is big. That's a big deal.
That's huge. If you're going to use them, if you only have one sub,
if he's listening to us, he's probably going to eventually.
Hopefully at least have 2, but if you don't, again, Jay, I mean, it's going to be up to you, your budget. I mean, that's a big difference. Are you going to hear a difference massively in the 7015 and 40? Probably not. I mean, Jonathan shared that earlier. When he went from the Denon to the AV10.
I just wouldn't buy an end of life product, in my personal opinion. And the 4 sub outs, the ability to get Dirac eventually, I think it just provides more flexibility. And with Dirac, it'll probably get art at some point, which would be a big deal.
Yeah, we don't know yet. It could.
I think it will. It will. So Rasai Gomes corrects me and says Trinnov does have full digital out. Okay. So I apologize about that misspeak. And they are in the professional space. I just think Storm's kind of taken that away in some regard with their flexibility and what they're doing, from what I've heard.
Again, you just got to do your research, figure out what's going to work best for you. Hans Ziegler. At first, I was like, Hans Zimmer's in the chat? That's awesome. A little bit different guy. Hey, guys, is 120 hertz for your subwoofer too high? My LFE setting. Oh, I love this question. My LFE setting on my sub is 150 hertz. So I set my AVR to 120. So there's a 30-second hertz overlap. Should my sub be set to lower? All right. I think there's a couple things to unpack here. So on your subwoofer physically, typically there's a subwoofer crossover, and it's rated in hertz. Inside the AVR for each one of your speakers, you have crossover. And then there's even a third section inside the AVR. Usually it's labeled like LFE. So my recommendation is in the LFE section, leave that as high as it'll go. Okay. To me, the reason for that is specific content that is just in the LFE channel. That's not going out to all your speakers. It's just the LFE. And the engineers that designed that specifically had a reason why they would include higher frequencies. It's not going to be vocals. It's going to be like explosions and things. So I don't want to miss out on that. But I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. 120 hertz for your subwoofer too high. LFE setting on my sub is 150 hertz. So again, what I don't know is, are you talking about on your sub, like the physical dial? So I always recommend, it's just my preference, the LFE channel, turn that up as high as it'll go in the AVR. On the subwoofer, turn that dial all the way up as high as it'll go. In essence, what you're doing is bypassing that crossover. And then in the AVR itself, under your center channel, your fronts, your rears, your Atmos speakers, your height channels, all those, that's where you would set 80 hertz, 70 hertz, 120 hertz, 100 hertz, 40 hertz, whatever those are going to be for your room. So Ryan, with you reading that, am I understanding what he's asking there? Again, I think there's some room for interpretation on what you're asking.
I'm not the correct guy to ask about the Marantz and Denon LFE setup stuff unless I'm sitting in front of it.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be either one of those. It might be something else.
LFE setting on my sub to 150. So the
that?
sub is not doing any type of cut on its own. So
Correct.
you want that all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
So I set my AVR to 120. Yeah, so you're not losing anything. That setting it to 150 on the sub just means the sub isn't running any type of pass filter on its own.
Right.
That's what's happening. So you said it right. You want to have the LFE dial all the way up.
So here's my only, if I'm reading this correctly, where he says I set my AVR to 120. So again, if that's the LFE section, yes, turn that all the way up. That's totally fine. If you're talking about your your main crossovers for your speakers, 120 I think is way too high.
But even the LFE, if your speakers can do it, wouldn't you send them to your speakers? You'd want it to be the same, wouldn't you?
No. And so here's the reason. All right, if I put my main speakers at 120 hertz, you're going to start hearing vocals in the subwoofer because it's sending.
But what I'm saying is wouldn't you'd want your crossover in the LFE to be the same?
The crossover in the LFE
and the LFE.
I don't think so.
Why?
Again, okay, and this was difficult for me to understand for a long time. Think about this. The LFE channel is its own 0.1 in that 7.1, 9.1.
Yeah, but if your speaker can do that frequency, why wouldn't you have your speaker do it?
If your speaker can handle it.
Why wouldn't you do it? Because in the higher frequencies, they're easier to localize. So why would you send them to your sub?
Because again, the LFE channel isn't going to have vocals in it. The LFE channel is just bass frequencies. So the sound engineer that's mixing an LFE channel, there's a reason. If you have a full
range speaker, why wouldn't you allow it to do down to 80?
Yeah, I still wouldn't do it. Again, that's just my preference. I'm curious to see what you got. Let us know in the chat kind of how you have it set up on your LFE channel or the LFE section in your AVR. Do you set that for like 80 hertz and your speakers at 80 hertz?
But maybe the LFE in those processors is only being sent to the sub.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean.
So only being sent to the sub, you would max it out.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's what I'm saying. The LFE that's just going to the subwoofer.
Oh,
that's
well,
the
then max it out. Turn it all the way up.
Yeah, it's not going to your fronts and everything.
No, then turn it all the way up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so because to me, if you bring it down to say 80, now you've removed the information that was physically put in there from 80 to 120.
Only being sent to the sub, turn it all the way up.
Yeah.
Because you want all of those frequencies being sent to the
That is correct. So like Jed says, that's a totally different thing than your actual crossovers.
Then set it to 120.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why did they make it confusing?
I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't want you thinking, oh, I'm going to go into all of my speakers, my fronts and center, turn that up to 120. That's a bad idea.
No.
Because you're going to get vocals coming through
your sub. The LFE track is only going to the sub, then just max it out.
Yeah. Cool. Great information here. Appreciate it, man. We try to be as helpful as we can. I don't claim to know everything. I am
obviously I don't, because I was telling Michael that he was wrong.
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. We're learning and we're growing, and I don't ever want to come across as the know-it-all.
No.
I'm an enthusiast just like you guys are. Ryan and I are both hobbyists at heart. He became a dealer long after he was an enthusiast. I started making content on home theater, but I had already been enjoying home theater and passionate about home theater for over a decade, maybe even 2 decades. So growing green, youth man, I don't know if I'm growing green. I don't grow any green stuff, if that's what you're asking. I don't know what you mean by that.
So this goes back to the previous question we were asking, I think, about subs with the 7015 and the Cinema 440. So if you got 4 subs, is there a way to make 2 normal and 2 near field? Not in most processors. So the new thing now that Dirac just released, and this is a big deal, and this is, I don't know if this is outside of art, but this was a big deal. I found this last week. They actually allow you now in Dirac, and this is only in beta right now, to omit channels from room correction.
Interesting.
Which is a huge deal, because you didn't used to be able to do that. So now if you have everything coming out, so let's say you've got 9 channels in, like, let's say you chose the 7015. Okay. The 7015 doesn't have Dirac. So Odyssey can't separate the subs. It's going to calibrate all of them at the same time. The only way you would be able to separate these is using like a mini DSP or something and running them all through the mini DSP. However, now through Dirac, if this transitions over to Massimo with Denon and Marantz, you can now, once you do all of the measurements and everything, when you're going into the calibration phase and doing your filters and stuff, you can drag the channels out. So I would put my subs in like a grouping, and I could grab my near fields and take them out of that grouping so that Room EQ wouldn't apply anything to those.
Right.
And then I could either run them separately on their own mini DSP or not do anything with them, or do their own onboard arc if they're like Martin Logan, or if you got Perlisten doing their own thing. So that's a big deal for a lot of guys. And JC says Room Perfect can emit channels. I did not know that. But Odyssey, you certainly can't. Dirac, you didn't used to.
Right.
So this is a big deal for the industry.
And I love the fact that at least with certain things like that, we're advancing. And I hate it when manufacturers just add a feature that really isn't a feature. It's just another way of getting you to sell what you got to upgrade. But I like things like this that they're providing value. You know, they're actually allowing you to have more control of your system. And I think that's always a great thing. JD, the expert, appreciate it. He clarifies, says, growing green is in happy and learning home theater, like good information. Sorry for the confusion. Just a saying from my dad a while back. He says, happy and learning from anything. Yeah. So I'm definitely happy and learning. I love surrounding myself by people that know more than I do, so that I can learn and I can grow. And then, of course, the things that I learn, I love sharing on this channel through YouTube videos, through YouTube shorts, through MWAVE, and different things to help you guys grow in your home theater journey as well. What's that?
Nothing.
Okay. Jay says, sorry about the missing info earlier. I'll do better. Currently have 4 Klipsch entry-level 10s. Not even sure of the model. Looking into replacing those with 2 monoliths. So
this was the guy that was talking about the 410s and the 215s. That's no question.
I'll do 2 monoliths over. So he's probably has Klipsch had some older like SPL 10s. And depending on how old they are, they definitely could even be even lower than that.
Those monoliths, I think, are $400 off right now.
Yeah. So good bang for your buck. Monoliths is killing it in the space. They're doing a really good job there. So yeah, I think that would be a safe assumption to head that direction. Kenny Chan, I'm a bit confused about choosing a screen size if I'm able to have my own masking panels. Would a 16:9 screen give me the same image size versus strictly a 2.35:1 screen?
Yes.
So I made a video on this a long time ago on 16:9 versus 2.35. We've talked about it here on the show. There's a bunch of different logic behind this. Like a friend of mine says, well, in theory, if I'm doing constant image height, okay, in other words, no matter what content is on there, it's going to maintain the same height. His theory is I'm going to go with the biggest 16:9 as I can, and then I'll mask top and bottom, and then I've still got this massive screen.
You mean constant image width?
No, his was constant image height.
Well, if it's constant image height, if you're doing top and bottom masking on 16:9, you're changing the height of the image.
That's correct.
Constant image width, the image would always stay the same width, and you would add masking top and bottom.
Yeah, and like I said, that's his theory of doing it. I went at it as the vast majority of the content that I watch is in scope format. So why would I want to make a 16:9 in my room when that's not the majority of the content? The other thing that I didn't want just a big TV, and our TVs are 16:9 right now. So I didn't want just a big TV, a bigger experience of what I got in my living room. I wanted a different, unique experience. And Cinescope or 2.35 or 2.4:1 ratio that to me is a significant different experience. And so that's why I went with that. And, but as far as like the actual size, easiest thing to do there is just go to, there's two websites, projectorcentral.com. And the other one's Audio Advice. So both of those have projector calculators. And so you can plug in your projector that either you're looking to buy or one that you already have. You can plug in the dimensions. You can tell it if it's 16:9 or this, and it'll show you the dimensions, the width and the height. And then you can physically see, okay, you know, depending on which side I go with, what are the physical dimensions and how are those going to compare. But I love having a scope screen. I'd never go back to a 16:9 screen. Ryan rocks a 16:9 screen in his, and it's a beautiful image. It's a great.
I'm a believer in you go as big of a screen as possible.
But I did. I went wall to wall.
Yeah, I go ceiling to floor, as high as you can go, wall to wall. Yeah. So this brings up another good question of what do you do if movies have aspect ratios that are in between 16:9? Well, if you're on 16:9, you'll have black bars or gray bars, depending on the projector. You can use lens memory if you're on like a scope screen, right? You would take lens memory and change the zooming and shifting so that it fits on the screen. But then the problem becomes, and this leads us to the next question, what happens if the aspect ratio changes? And this becomes a big time problem on scope screens, right? If the aspect ratio changes mid-movie and you've got it fit to scope, right? And it changes to IMAX or 16:9 and now it's full height, top and bottom of your image is cut off. JC Reynolds asks, can I mask the top and bottom of my screen and modify the output of the MK2 so I don't have to change my screen? Yes. So the Envy, and that's what he's talking about with the MK2, the Envy is actually able to detect aspect ratios and detect black bars. And then once the Envy is configured, it can change, stretch, crop, multitude of different things to make any aspect ratio content fit any aspect ratio screen dynamically. So even if the aspect ratio changes mid-film or mid-media, you will never see, if you have it covering the entire screen all the time through your configurations, you'll never see the aspect ratio change occur. It's
JC, I'm going to have some, I don't have the Mark II version. I've got the Mark I, but I'm going to show you nonlinear stretch and that instant aspect ratio change. I'll have some video content on that to show you physically, like some scenes like in Interstellar, they're mixing that content. They're going from
Maverick
to Maverick does the same thing,
or Dark Knight. I mean, there's tons of movies. Every Christopher Nolan movie.
Not a ton. I mean, there's a handful.
There's more than you think.
I guarantee there's 10 movies.
Oh, there's far more than that.
There's not a ton of movies out there that are switching.
Anything, everything, all at once has like 40 different aspect ratios. And
I get it. They're
a few different minutes.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's a super cool feature though, to be able to, because I was watching Interstellar and I'm watching it change on my screen. I'm like, this would give me a headache. Like this would be absolutely bonkers to watch. Like I would not enjoy this. But with the Envy, it just fills my screen 2.35 to 1 the whole time, no matter what. And so that's a huge feature if you're going scope. So I definitely like what they have to offer there. There was something down here. Hang on. And it might not have even been home theater. What was it? Display Wars, wasn't that one? I do remember when Letterbox was a thing. Oh, here we go. Mikey says, if I got $1 every time I plug those calculators, here's the thing. They're free. Why wouldn't I plug them? You know, I'm not telling you to go use somebody's, man, I would love to, hey, Audio Advice, we could make a little arrangement here. I mean, every time I mention, you can throw me $1. We'll be talking about a lot of time. No, I see the value in those calculators. Projector Central has been out forever. Like back 15 years.
Reinventing the wheel.
15 years ago when I was building my home theater, that was a huge benefit to me because it helped me figure out where to place my projector. The throw distance was my biggest thing. Audio Advice has taken that to a new level. I really like their theater design tool, but they've actually got two. One's a theater design tool and the other one is a projector tool. And it'll show you like, if you even have proper brightness for HDR content, which is really cool. And that's something that Projector Central doesn't offer. So yeah, so I'm definitely a fan of both of those. Just use them. Those tools are free. They're available. I mean, if you want to go back to Trig and figure this stuff out manually, go for it. But I ain't got time for that, man. So
we're lazy.
Yeah, I like tools. Kenny Chin, I'm a bit confused about choosing this. Okay, we just did that one, man. All right, Bruce Barnes, Ryan, there's a guy near me selling an Epson 5040 for $150. Power's on, but has no light out. I think it's worth. Yeah, that's hard. Depends on if you're handy, if you know what you're doing.
You could always see if he'll give you this. He'll give you the serial number and see if it's still under warranty.
It ain't not a 5040.
Or what you could do is call Epson and say, "Hey, I've got a 5040 that has it doesn't have light output. How much would you pay to? What I need to pay to have it fixed?"
And normally,
it's a few $100, or even if it's a few $100, then
normally guys, I mean, normally companies like that, they're outsourcing. Like they don't have an in-house repair facility.
JVC repairs all their own stuff.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I've had like receivers that went bad. They're like, oh, it's out of warranty. Just contact a local repair shop kind of thing.
And this is me assuming that the bulb isn't broken or something like that. That could be it.
Yeah.
Could be that simple.
True.
Maybe the bulb housing would and
could you imagine that though? All he needed was a new bulb. Speaking of that, I got a new bulb I ordered for my NX7. So I've got about 1,600 hours on the bulb.
God.
What?
So much.
What, dude?
So much.
I'm excited.
No, I meant that's a lot of hours on your bulb. I'd be excited too.
Here's the weird thing with bulb projectors is it's kind of like the toe. You know, you've heard the story where if you took a frog and threw him in a pot of boiling water, he'd jump out. But if you put a frog in lukewarm water and then you start heating it up, the frog will die because he's just getting used to it. Well, it's kind of like, I know it's a weird analogy. Ryan's like, where's he going with this?
We got really dark here. I mean, I get the analogy, but
what I'm saying is that like you don't realize how dim your projector is getting because you just see it gradually changing over years.
Yeah, but you could have said like, you know how you put on weight and you don't realize it and everybody's just getting fat. But instead you just go, oh, the frog died. It's just
frog died.
Jesus,
frog,
man. That's just got really dark.
You've heard that analogy is fake. It might be. I don't know. I heard it too. So it's a great analogy nonetheless, Saturn. But yeah, it's one of those things that over time you don't realize how bad it is until you buy a new projector bulb. And then you're like, why have I waited this long? You know, so I'm excited. I'll let you guys know how big of a difference it is. But if you got like over 1,000, that's what I'll eventually I want to go to an NZ8. NZ9's way out of the range. NZ7, it would work good, but I figured if I'm going to upgrade, I want to make sure it's an upgrade, additional output and so forth. But I would love to be able to have over time just a constant brightness versus gradually dimming over time. So I'm excited about that. So one day. I saw a super chat. Eric, appreciate the $10 super chat. Any experience with Acurus processor? So Acurus is cool. I have their amplifier, old school amplifier, A200, rock solid, but they make I think it's called an Act 4. Not a lot of guys have, you just don't hear Acurus being talked about very much. They were going to send me a processor a long time ago. Joey he actually works with MadVR now. Joey was going to send me.
I talk to him every day.
Yeah. Joey was working with Acurus. He lives just north of me. He lives like in Tallahassee, I think.
No, Panhandle.
Okay. That's that direction.
Yeah. But he lives like in the central time zone.
Oh, but he's like, okay, here, let me just back
up.
He's in North Florida. I'm in Central Florida. So it's like a 4-hour drive, I think. So a long time ago when he was working for Acurus and what's the parent company? Acurus and oh my goodness. Anyway, there's a company that owns Acurus and Aragon. anyway, I'm drawing a blank, but he was going to bring one down. We're going to play with it and he's going to set it up, but that just never transpired. So I haven't had any experience with Acura's processor, and I haven't had any experience with Stark amplifiers. Heard good things about Stark, but don't know anything about them. The only Acura's experience I have, like I said, is with I guarantee that thing's probably 20 years old. It's rock solid, man. 200 by 2. It's in my 2-channel setup. It's a beast. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any experience with it. And there's not a lot of content creators. I think Giles has had an Acura's and may still have it in his setup. So you might could check out his channel, Home Theater Fanatics. I don't know who else. Yeah, I don't know anybody else that's had one or experienced with one. Bruce Barnes, nope, got that one. I forgot to unstar it. Johnny E, good to see you, Johnny. I hadn't seen you tonight. Question at Youth Man and Ryan. I'm looking at homes now. I'm getting a home theater room, one of the model homes I'm looking at. The home theater is 11.5 feet wide, 19. Okay, that's basically the size of my room. Mine's 13 by 19, 10-foot ceiling, same thing. Will 130, 2.35 to 1 or 140 work? So mine is 19 long and I have 150 inch and my front wall is 4 feet of that. So I only have like a 15-foot depth room and I'm rocking 150. So I would 100% say that you could do 130, easily 140. That's just and that's with 2 rows of seating. And so if you're putting that especially up against the front wall and you're not like doing like a build out, like a cabinet to put it away from that front wall, heck yeah, dude, you could go 140 easy, even 150. Yeah, go for it, man. It's one of those things. I think Ryan mentioned this earlier. I've heard a lot of guys in the past say, man, I wish I would have went bigger. I went with 103 inch originally in my theater room and just made a video kind of talking about my journey on that. And I always felt like I was looking at the screen. I never felt like I was immersed in the movie. When I went 150, I feel like I'm immersed in the movie, and that's what I want. So I don't know if I've ever heard somebody say, man, I went too big. Here's the cool thing too. If you decide to go too big, and let's say you don't want to invest in another screen, guess what you can do? Just mask it. Build a frame around it, make that image smaller. If you feel like you need a smaller screen, I don't think you will.
Something to consider, though, to play a little bit of a devil's advocate, is the larger screen you go, the more light you lose.
True.
So just weigh that into your consideration, right? Make sure if you get a large screen that you get a projector that's going to be capable of lighting that screen up.
Yeah, dude, if you got an Epson 6050, it'd have no problem. Yeah. Yeah, I'm all for a big screen, dude. I would go for 130, 140 all day, any day. As far as just, is it too big visually? No, not at all.
You'd be fine.
You're not going to be strained on that. Last couple questions here. S Sansa 25 says, "Will I really notice a change between a Sony 790 or like a Denon 1700H, 2000H? Looking for an AV upgrade." I'm not familiar. I'm assuming that's maybe an older Sony, and that's why you're wanting to upgrade. DH790, Sony DH790.
When did that come out? It's a little guy.
Oh yeah, that's like a mini. So it's like a $400 receiver. Retail on it's yeah. I think the biggest thing that I have struggled with Sony over the years is their amplifier is just really, really underpowered. And then if you're trying to power 7 speakers with it, it's really going to, take a toll on it. It just doesn't have a big power supply. Like this one's showing 90 watts per channel with 2 channels driven. So then by the time you add 7 speakers to it, I mean, you might be 35, 40 watts. I think 50 would be optimistic. I just don't think it's going to do that in a Sony. So I've never personally, I've never been a huge fan of Sony. Now maybe their new ones are going to prove me wrong, but I just haven't been a fan of them. We used to sell them back at Circuit City, and the Onkyo's all day long, the Harman Kardons all day long would just spank them every day of the week. And that was only 2 channels driven. So that's as much as they could handle. I'm sorry, not as much as they can handle. That was like the most output you're going to get when you're just driving 2 speakers. And the Sony's every day of the week. I mean, they were just getting their butts handed to them. So I think absolutely one of the newer Denon AVRs would absolutely be a good upgrade over the Sony. I just think you're going to get more power from it. And plus you're going to have all the, I don't know if the one that you have has the latest processing.
It looks like it does.
I'm looking here, and it may not be as old as I think it is.
It's got Atmos. It's got DTSX.
Okay. So it's not an old AVR.
No.
Okay. Yeah, because it'll do 5.1.2. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I just have never been super fond. And even looking at, I don't know, get on here. Okay, the whole thing weighs 16 pounds. So think about that. Most of the weight on these isn't the chassis. The chassis is super light. Most of the weight is like if it's got a toroidal transformer, the power supply in it. So that tells me there's not a lot in there. And what was the other model he was looking at? The
1700 or 2800H.
I mean, just out of curiosity. And on 2800, let's just see what that is weight wise. And again, weight isn't everything, but it's not like they throw a piece of lead in there just to add weight.
They might.
They don't.
No, they don't.
So this one's okay. So it's not a big difference, honestly. I thought there'd be a bigger difference in the weight. So that one is 16 pounds versus 21 pounds. So, okay, not a ton, but I still think if you looked on the inside of that, there's a much bigger power supply. I was trying to see if they have one on their website. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they're not actually with that. They're not even using a big toroidal transformer. It doesn't look like.
You won't get Dirac with that.
Yeah. Well, he probably doesn't have Dirac now.
I know, but the 2800H doesn't get Dirac support.
Yeah.
I don't think.
But again, he's going from a $400 AVR to possibly a, what is this one? A $1,200 AVR. So that's a big jump.
And so I'd say if you're really considering it, and this goes for anybody in chat, if you guys are considering any type of upgrades, shoot me an email, text me, call me. Even if you don't buy anything, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about this kind of stuff. Because what I really don't want to happen to any of you guys, and this is why I became a dealer, is for you to go down a path that maybe doesn't best suit you. And I do not want you to buy something based on any of our opinions. Yeah. Sure, take advice, take what you will, but I want you to buy something because you think it fits best into what you are and what you want. And the key to that is making sure that you're educated in the particular space so that you can make the decision for yourself. So I just want to make sure that you don't get burned on this journey, which is the reason I became a dealer, because I got burned and got tired of other people getting burned, so that you can make a decision that you don't regret and then need to spend more money in order to fix or change.
Yeah. I was trying to see, I was going back to a question. He had mentioned that it could be the fact that they're using Class D amplifier. No, the Sony's using an AB amplifier.
It's probably AB.
Yeah.
They're just little.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, they just don't have big power supplies in them.
No.
And Sony's never led the way. That's cool. So Mikey says you can get a 3700H for around 1,000 refurb. There's even a company called Accessories for Less here in Florida. They do refurbs. Sometimes you can save some money there. So,
yep.
Cool.
You got like one more question?
Yeah. All right, Michael, what jumping subs was the biggest? Great question, Grave Danger. So, like I shared earlier in the show, I went from a 10-inch Velodyne, that was a CT100, 10-inch with a 100-watt amplifier. Going from that to a Velodyne 15-inch that had a 250-watt amp. That was a big jump, but it still wasn't an amazing sub. When I would crank it up and it hit really low frequencies, it would kind of bottom out. So it wasn't the best. Then I went to a higher end Velodyne subwoofer, had a nicer cabinet, much bigger amplifier, 1,250 watts continuous, 3,000 peak. That was a decent upgrade, but it wasn't massive. Going from those to the Klipsch subs, I had 4 of those. That was a pretty significant upgrade. But the biggest, by far, the biggest difference was when I went from the PB16s to the JTR Captivators. And literally, I made a video not too long ago talking about how the JTR speakers are they're my end game. And Ryan was talking about that earlier. Once you kind of get to a certain point, like, I just don't see where I could go. I don't need any more output in my room. I don't need any more extension, low end extension. I'm flat down to 5 hertz. I'm not down 10 dB, it's flat down to 5 hertz. So that's way more than I could ever utilize in my room. So to me, that was the biggest jump, going from SVS PB16s, 2 of them, to 2, technically 418s in the 2 JTR RS2s. So Brian, what was yours? Biggest upgrade in subs over the years? So you got the bigger one. You got the 4000 ULFs.
No question.
So
huge difference.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to quantify it. You go from thinking you have output to realizing your whole life was a lie.
No, I did. I mean, the PB16s, I was like, man, I had one thing fall off.
You have output, but it's a totally different universe that the JTR exists in.
It was wild, though.
They shouldn't even be both called subwoofers, because they're not. I mean, they're not the same in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, 18s are pretty awesome, I'll be honest with you. And guys that own 21s and 24s, they're going to say the same thing. They're like, it's a different experience. It really is. And when you have a subwoofer, regardless of what brand manufactures it, there are other brands that can do that as well. Hitting single digits is a whole new experience in itself. So when you can get down to 10, 8, 5, dude, it's wild, man.
You guys have heard me talk about this before. Wet and dry bass, right? There is something that holds things together, or that exists around what I call the dry bass, the hit in the chest. And when I was doing I talked about this at the beginning of the stream, when I was doing my Dirac calibrations and I saw my frequency response just kind of fall off a cliff, it was very easy to tell because it just felt empty. It didn't feel like the room was full. But as soon as you turn that off and you go back to, and I had a flat frequency before, I've just been testing things, and that all of that frequency comes back. It's not the SPL level or the SPL that makes you feel like it's full. It's those frequencies, and it just feels so much more enveloping instead of you just getting hit. And it's a much more full and immersive experience, in my opinion. Even with music. And my test was with music. And there was just a ton of stuff that was missing. And people are always saying, that stuff doesn't exist in music. Well, it exists there more than you think it does.
Yeah. And one of those scenes, I always go back to Ready Player One, when the dinosaur stomps and when Kong jumps off the tower and he lands on the freeway. I've heard that scene with less capable subs that don't dig as deep. And you hear it, it's clean, but then it all of a sudden it just disappears.
Yeah.
And I know there's lower frequencies to be felt, but I'm not feeling that from those because I can't handle those lower frequencies. Then you come into my room and it's like, oh my gosh, it just keeps going down and down and down. And you're feeling like Ryan said, you're feeling that whole spectrum. It's a different experience. So 100%. There was something I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah. So Saturn, you said you love to hear single digits. So technically you're not going to hear single digits.
You'll feel it.
Most hearing, we'll hear down to about 20 hertz, roughly. Every hearing's a little bit different.
The best way I can describe it is when your subs can do that, it feels, when you're putting out output, it's going to feel like there is a weight on you. Not like you're getting hit by like a kick drum or something. It's just going to feel like a weight. When you're underwater or something and you're at the bottom, there's just going to be a weight on your chest constantly when you're in those low frequency ranges.
That's cool.
JC asked what subs I had before. Right before these, I had REL 212s. I had 2 of them. And the JTRs, they weren't cheap. The JTRs just dominated them. And it's not even just output. People always say, they're not musical. Man, they are
we hear
unbelievable in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Dune has some low notes. Absolutely. Yeah. So honestly, man, we'd love, I don't know if you're in the US or out of the US, but if you're in the US, we'd love to have you come. If you want to hear single or experience single digits, we're going to have it. We're going to have it at MWAVE, July the 14th through the 16th, Kansas City, that at the Kansas City Convention Center. You can get all, wrong one. You can get all the details at the website, Midwest AV Experience. We actually have several different brands that can hit single digits. Stereo Integrity is going to be there with their 24-inch subs. I think Nick's bringing 2 or 4 of those. We're going to have Perlisten. Perlisten, I don't think they go down to single digits in a room, but they're going to hit pretty stinking low. But we've got GSG is going to bring some big bad boys. I know they can hit pretty low. JTR is going to be there. They hit low. So if you want single digits, we're definitely going to give some opportunities for you to experience that. So we'd love to have you join us for that. Yep. I think we got just a few more. TY, appreciate the $5 super chat. Bagged a JVC RS400. Thanks to you guys' advice.
Terrible decision.
So a UB420 for physical media. So that's Panasonic, and then okay, so Apple TV 4K for streaming. And I'm most of the way there. 120-inch Draper Onyx screen, 16-foot throw. Awesome setup, man. Congratulations. So I think that JVC is going to serve you very well. That's an older unit, correct, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a couple generations old.
Hopefully you got a Youth Man deal, saved you some money there.
Full transparency, just things that you're going to want to worry about or watch for, because these projectors are known for it. Long HDMI handshakes. Negotiations, the black screens are going to be very long.
Mm-hmm.
Their tone mapping isn't really very good. So the UB420 is going to help substantially in that regard. But if you watch a lot of media, I highly, not streamed media, but like if you've got a lot of discs and you can rip them, my recommendation is home theater PC version of MadVR or the Envy if you want to splurge. But that is going to take your tone mapping and make that beast and unlock its full hardware potential. Because when we did this in January, it was trading blows, if not beating the NZ8. But it needed outside software support with tone mapping. Otherwise, it was not great. Contrast was awesome. It's just onboard tone mapping isn't fantastic.
Yeah. Like I said, hopefully you got a great deal on it, man. That's awesome. So Saturn says, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I can feel double digits. My house is shaking at 17 hertz and below. I'll try single digits and see, but I'm sure I won't feel anything with my SV. Yeah, they're just going to, here's where the...
Be careful.
I was about to say, a lot of guys will go to like Edge of Tomorrow, and it plays really low frequency. I think the lowest note's 10 hertz. And the SVS sub, I had the PB16s, and they can't handle it. Not at loud volume. Well, at low volume, it's okay, but
you may blow your sub too.
Yeah,
if it's trying and putting out output.
Man. Yeah, they're not meant to do that. If you want single digits, you're gonna have to go somewhere other than SVS. Honestly, JC Reynolds had the F18s. Said he had 8 of those. That's awesome. Seaton F18s, and Saturn has a 3-day ticket to MWAVE. Glad that you're gonna be there with us. It's gonna be a blast, man. He said, I probably felt single digits at Ryan's place. So he's been to your home, dude.
Yeah, you did. I go down flat to 7.
Nice. Super cool, man. Yeah. So we're going to have some fun at MWAVE. Let me just look real quick. Configuring MadVR on Windows. Does it work with Windows tone mapping API? Not familiar with that. That's the PC platform, I guess.
If you mean using it on your PC...
think so.
I don't know what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. Oh, cool, man.
I'd suggest you just drop that question in the AVS forum thread for that particular topic.
I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Try to get to as many questions as we could. We got through pretty much all of them. If you guys are in the area or want to even travel, we'd love to have you join us for MWAVE July 14th through the 16th. All the information is on the website, Midwest AV Experience. If you got any needs for home theater stuff, hit Ryan up, ryan@ascendav.net. Hope you guys have an amazing, one more question. Ryan, what did Mark's room in Chicago hit flat? Do you remember? Ryan's room? Or Mark's room? Oh, okay, Mark.
I don't know.
I don't know what he's running. He is
probably around that.
Yeah, because he's got JTRs, right?
Yeah, like
yeah,
7.
He's hitting single digits.
He has 7 4000s.
God.
But his room's substantially larger, so I don't know what he hit. It's going to be really close to single digits, if not into the single digits.
Yeah. Oh, Mark was in the chat earlier. Sure. Well, cool, man. Hope y'all have an incredible week. I'm going to be super, super busy over this week trying to get some stuff done before I head off to Wisdom Audio. I'll be flying out there for a dealer training. Not that I'm going to be a dealer. They just invited me to come out and check out their headquarters, and then kind of sit in on their dealer training. Just kind of
see what next week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be in next week. I leave Monday for LA and Orange County.
My flight is next. Yeah, on the 22nd.
That's when I fly out.
Yeah, so not this coming week, but the following week. So I'll just be gone a couple days. I'll leave on the Monday, be there the 23rd and 24th, and then fly back on the 25th.
Same.
So
too bad we're not in the same place.
Brian with the super chat. Thanks, brother. Love you, man. Brian's just such an amazing guy. He's not only a good friend, he's one of my patrons, so he supports me through that. Coming in with the super chat at the end of the night, just to show his love. So, man, appreciate you. Brian, I want to see your home theater, man. I want to experience it.
We're going to get it done.
He's got Perlisten all around.
Hopefully Perlisten doesn't release a new line and cause the full upgrade again.
All right, Predominator. I'm sorry. I'm going to scroll back up and see if I can find your question.
I wish you could sort by name.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, cool. Hey, Youth Man, I'm a big fan of backlit poster. Awesome. I know acoustic treatment is absolutely necessary. Yeah, for pure sound, my space is small. If I put panels all over the theater besides one wall.
Is that okay?
So so good question.
I would put backlit panels outside the theater.
Yeah, if you can. It's going to be a distract. They look cool. I'll be honest. And we've got a gentleman that I'm hoping that he's coming to MWAVE. Don't know, but there's a company out there that probably makes some of the best panels out there. They look gorgeous. I've seen them one time. I literally thought they were TVs. They were gorgeous. I was like, holy cow. They looked phenomenal. But yeah, inside your theater room, they are going to be distracting. You're going to get a lot of reflections, both visually and audibly from it. So you definitely I wouldn't recommend lining, a wall with them. If you can, I would put them, like you said, in a foyer and an entryway. I had thought about maybe putting one in my theater room, but I mean, other than looking cool, yeah, that's really it. It's just aesthetics. But I don't know. I'd be hesitant about that, especially not putting any sound treatment on a full wall, especially if you're wanting, or if you're thinking of maybe putting multiple of those glass panels. That's just not going to be good acoustics. So I'd be hesitant of doing that. Now, if you wanted to put one there and then surround that with some acoustic panels, I think you'd be fine. That's not a big deal. As long as it's not like in your main, like your first reflection point, I wouldn't put them there, but maybe further back in the room. I think that'd be fine. But I'm with Mikey. I think it's going to be kind of distracting. Even with it off, you're going to be able to see it out of your peripheral. So anyway, hope that answers all your questions, guys. Appreciate y'all more than you'll ever know. Hope you have an incredible week, and we'll catch you next week at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Take care.
See you guys later.